What if there was someone who had mastered every form of magic in existence, a being of unimaginable power, and yet he chose to enter the Dragon Slayer Academy, not as a teacher but as a mere trainee? His name is Kim Ho. In the modern world, he was a legendary gamer. Within months of the game, Dragon Slayer Academy launched. He became the strongest player of all. But instead of staying on top, he chose to step back, playing only as support, giving away all his resources to help others. Why? Because his true goal wasn't to be the strongest, but to raise the strongest. And he did, training over 1,000 S-rank heroes in just 1 year. Just when the young man thought his journey conquering the new game was complete, a new system notification suddenly popped up. The game told him, "Congratulations, you've reached a legendary milestone never achieved before. A special mission has been activated. Prevent the Apocalypse X difficulty." When Kim Ho saw that, he immediately thought of those X-rank heroes that cost a fortune to unlock. For a broke guy like him, this was a total steal. Without thinking twice, the dude furiously clicked accept like a man possessed, not noticing the small warning at the bottom. This is a reincarnation mission. And so what must happen did happen. Kim Ho got ice guide straight into the Dragon Slayer Academy game. After a few moments of WTF, Kim Ho finally regained his sense, only to realize all his skills and gear had been wiped clean. In return, he was given a copy trait and an F-rank amplification skill. Copying made sense, but what even was amplification? While he was still trying to figure out his next move, a new notification appeared. Guide one target to survive for 10 minutes to earn the Dragon Slayer Academy Starter Pack. Countdown begins now. Kim Ho was still feeling pretty optimistic. It's just a newbie mission with weak monsters, right? But when things seem too normal, you know they're about to get weird. And just like that, he was teleported right into a battlefield between 2 boss monsters. He bolted in sheer panic. Bosses already, X difficulty my butt, I need to get out of here. The red dragon cast a spell that looked like the gates of hell just opened. Kim Ho glanced at it and thought, if I get caught in that, I'm toast. But while running, a light bulb went off in his tiny brain. Wait, isn't this the perfect time to test the copy skill? The red and blue dragons were brawling like crazy in the sky. Neither wanted to lose, and Kim Ho, our genius hero, knew. To copy a trait, you have to witness the action and identify the target's name and level. After one earth-shaking clash, he came to a conclusion: this should work. Kim Ho's eyes, only one target exists. System update, target trait elemental resistance S has been copied. As soon as the copy went through, he nearly fainted from joy. No way, I actually copied an S-rank trait this early. Elemental resistance S massively reduces elemental damage. Jackpot. As he kept walking, he noticed some leaves falling in front of him. I want to get another skill, but without a mana core, there's nothing to activate. One S-rank trait is good enough for now. But then he paused and frowned. Why's the wind blowing backward? Oh great, things got all quiet and he thought the chaos was over. Who would have guessed? The dragon took a deep breath. On the other side, the blue dragon wasn't backing down either, clearly ready to go all. Kim Ho looked back, then bolted. Was that a breath attack? The deadliest move in a dragon's arsenal. He ran like his life depended on it, even with elemental resistance. It was clear this was a cows fighting, flies dying kind of situation. One spits fire, one spits lightning, and guess who's standing right between them? Dead meat with legs, that's who. Boom! Kim Ho sprinted for dear life, trying to escape the blast zone. Then the system popped up again. Tutorial complete. Reward, Dragon Slayer Academy uniform, student ID card, train ticket. Next up, head to the station and board the train to Dragon Slayer Academy. Scene shift, train station. The place was buzzing. Excuse me, miss, could you please stand up for a sec? A young man holding a sword spoke to a girl who had her head down on the table. No more seats left. May I sit next to you? No response. He assumed the answer himself. Sleeping? Sorry to wake you. I'll find another place then. But just as he was about to leave, someone else walked in. No seats left. Oh hey, it's Kim Ho. Hearing the question, the sword guy hesitated. Well, not exactly, she hasn't said anything. The girl, who'd been asleep the whole time, finally woke up looking dazed. Kim Ho pointed and casually declared, I'm sitting here, okay? The girl nodded, yeah. He responded while the sword guy looked totally ignored. Thanks, I'm Kim Ho. The girl replied, Seo Yang. Kim Ho invited the young man too. You can sit here as well, right? The girl eyed him with subtle suspicion. The sword guy nodded and introduced himself. Thank you, my name is Go Hyunwoo. This guy talked like a noble swordsman from a wuxia novel, even bowed formally. Many thanks. I almost had to stand the whole ride. I shall repay this favor, brother Kim. Kim Ho stared at him. Yep, 100% main character energy. He replied in kind, why so late, man? Go Hyunwoo smiled and answered, on the way here, I spotted 2 ancient dragons. Got so shocked I lost my way. Kim Ho shuddered at the memory. Yeah, same here, I almost got roasted, man. As smoke puffed and the train whistle blew, they realized, it's departing. Kim Ho started reminiscing about the Dragon Slayer Academy, a place he'd visited countless times whenever a new hero popped up. He knew the place like the back of his hand, so well it was boring, but this time something felt off. He glanced at his two new companions, silently committing their names to memory. Go Hyunwoo, Seo Yang. He felt somewhat detached, watching everything quietly. All the students and instructors were unfamiliar faces. It all felt like a slow-motion movie. Every person seemed unique. He concluded, the setting might be the same, but the characters are different. That means the events and quests ahead could change. I better stay sharp. Kim Ho felt uneasy from the gaze of the person next to him. Seriously, she'd been staring at him non-stop. On her side, Seo Yang looked pretty bored, not caring about anything. She had a special eye that converted everything she saw into stats. Looking at Go Hyunwoo, she thought, meh, average. She was great, he was okay. The guy had a familiar status window, Wind Heaven Blade and Sword Technique, D rank, Sword Traits, C, Core, E, totally normal. But then came Kim Ho, a whole different beast. His entire status screen was trait, copy, amplification. This guy was something else. She couldn't even count how many unknown status windows she saw. Because he was so unusual, she kept starring, making Kim Ho uncomfortable. He finally asked, you good, what's with the starring? The girl suddenly remembered the adults' advice at home. If you're curious about someone, do something nice. So she immediately opened her suitcase, and inside was a bag of cookies that really stood out. Seo Yang offered them. Want one? Kim Ho, not wanting to be rude, took one. Thanks, homemade. Seo Yang nodded. Yeah, he took a bite. Hey, not bad at all. Turns out she only offered them to Kim Ho, not the guy next to him. Poor Hyunwoo got nothing but the view. While munching, Kim Ho asked, hey Go Hyunwoo, mind if I ask something? That big thing next to you, is that a longsword? The guy confirmed. Sharp eyes, my friend. Full of pride, he introduced it. This is my family's heirloom. Sadly, I'm not yet qualified to break its seal, so it remains dormant. Still smiling, he pulled out a second, simpler sword. Until then, this steel blade shall be my loyal partner. Don't worry, it hasn't failed me yet. Kim Ho listened and commented, really? Though you might want to consider getting a more reliable weapon, just in case. Suddenly, another guy burst in, flinging the door open. Attention everyone, mind if I chill here for a bit? Ever polite, Go Hyunwoo smiled. Not at all, make yourself at home. The uninvited guest laughed heartily. Haha, thanks, I won't take long. Kim Ho felt something was off. He hadn't heard footsteps. I think I know who this guy is, he thought. Why aren't you sitting down instead of bouncing around? The guy grinned. Ahaha, you caught me. The boy struck a pose and whipped out a business card. Need anything? Call Shin Byingchul, Dragon Slayer Academy Delivery Service. You pay, we fet. People looked skeptical. Anything? He nodded confidently. Of course, Kim Ho wasn't buying it. Sounded against school rules, but the kid looked like he had experience. Yep, just call us. Kim Ho smirked. And now you're running because the school's onto you, huh? Shin Byingchul's face went pale. Yeah. Shin glanced out the window and asked nervously, was it that obvious? Kim Ho suggested, you're peeking out like someone chasing you. There was a shadow outside the window. We'll talk later. Shin pressed his face to the glass and winced. A group of people who looked like a student council was standing there. The girl leading them shouted, come out, we know you're in there. Kim Ho peeked and muttered, the disciplinary committee's here already. Shin scratched his head awkwardly and stepped out. Welp, I'm doomed. These students had authority and stubborn faces to match. The committee maintained order in the academy and was made up of first-years who enrolled early and now managed the train. The lead girl furiously demanded, return what doesn't belong to you. Shin barely started to argue before getting zapped like a guy dodging debt collectors. Kim Ho watched her use her power seriously. A lightning mage, that's rare. He was already planning to nab it. I've got room in my copy slots, right? Better safe than sorry. Meanwhile, Shin acted like he couldn't care less. Who's in trouble? Not me. I suck at close combat anyway. Kim Ho's half-eaten cookie suddenly dropped from his hand. The girl put her gloves back on, ready to teach the boy a lesson. Still not giving up, then I'll take you down. Snap, the place lit up brighter than a power plant. She formed a lightning bird and hurled it at Shin. All he could do was raise his arms and brace for impact. Suddenly a hand reached out and grabbed the lightning bird midair, neutralizing the spell. The hand held it without a single scratch. Committee girl was stunned. Wait, there's another one. Kim Ho stepped forward and replied, not really. He pointed at the cookie on the floor. That's my cookie, you made me drop it. The girl's face went blank. Cookie. System update, you've learned support magic, hummingbird. At the same time, Kim Ho complained with a serious tone, that cookie was good and you guys ruined my snack. I'm mad now. Johan immediately argued, don't pin this on us, you didn't move aside. We were still being polite, don't blame the sea for being salty. Hyunwoo jumped in, hand on his sword. I advise caution. If you draw your blade, I won't sit quiet. The situation spiraled, the tension between both groups rising fast. The atmosphere was suffocating until Chun-Hai jumped in to defuse the bomb. Hold up, how about we give you a dessert coupon for the academy cafeteria? Kim Ho nodded in satisfaction. Deal, that'll do. Byung-chul, standing nearby, muttered, what about me? Kim Ho didn't hesitate. Figure it out yourself. Flash of light passed his eyes, followed by the system notification. Skill Copid 11, Hummingbird E. Trait Copid 11, Elemental Resistance S. Kim Ho grinned like a sly fox. Thanks for the skill, buddy. Meanwhile, Chun-Hai kept accusing him. You stole a station staff member's wig. That prank was way too far. Kim Ho sighed. Yeah, maybe he did deserve that zap. Before leaving, she gave him one last warning. Word of advice, stay away from Shin Byung-chul. He waved her off cheerfully. I'll decide that myself. Have a nice day. Yohan turned back with a cold huff. I'll remember your face. As the door shut, Hyunwoo couldn't hide his excitement. That's the disciplinary committee for you, Byung-chul quickly chimed in. Yeah, top-tier elites, every one of them. The one who zapped me with the hummingbird was Song Chun-Hai. He was still surprised. Wait, as in the Topaz magic line. Byung-chul confirmed again. Yup, that Song. Song Chun-Hai is the granddaughter of the Thunder Emperor Song Kyungwa. He kept going like a walking encyclopedia of bosses. The rest aren't pushovers either. Jo Byok is the disciple of the Fist King, Han Somi is the student of the Sword Emperor, and the heir of Scythe Pavilion, GM Yohan. He may not be on the same level, but… Before he could finish, Byung-chul darted toward the door. Gotta go, you guys are fun, say hi if we meet again. Bye-bye. Hyunwoo could only admire his exit, still full of energy. A moment later, he turned to Kim Ho. You really jumped in over a cookie, Kim Ho shrugged. Nah, I was just curious about that rare lightning mate. Hyunwoo looked baffled. Didn't you just block a strike from Lady Song? Kim Ho suddenly turned the tables. Do you know how advanced that hummingbird spell is? Hyunwoo thought carefully. This was my first time seeing it. Then he added his take. It was so fast the eye could barely follow. It's more for disabling or paralyzing than dealing damage. Kim Ho nodded, impressed. That's half right. Hyunwoo asked, what's the other half? Kim Ho's eyes lit up as he explained. It's called hummingbird because it mimics the way a real one flies. He grew serious. Depending on the caster's skill, the effectiveness varies. You can even tell how experienced someone is just by watching how the bird moves. He gave an example. If Song Chun-Hai was truly seasoned, then when I interfered, that hummingbird would have changed course instantly. Kim Ho paused, but it flew straight into my hand. That means her control or real combat experience is lacking. Hyunwoo raised an eyebrow. You got all that from one move? Kim Ho chuckled. That's not even the full picture. He did some mental math. She used an E-rank spell, but its power was close to D-rank. That means either she has a strong trait or a naturally massive mana pool. Not surprising, Thunder Emperor's granddaughter and all. Definitely going on my recruit list. Hyunwoo was silent for a beat, then laughed. We just met and I already feel like I've learned so much. Must be fate. Kim Ho laughed out loud. Fate is pushing it. Ask and I'll explain, that's all. Hyunwoo instantly bowed with a hand salute. Truly honored, brother. If you ever need help, don't hesitate to ask. I'll give it my all. Kim Ho nodded, but instead of thanking him, he grinned. Really? Then come with me real quick. Oh, and can I borrow a silver coin? Hyunwoo looked like he just got slapped by the wind. Huh. Right after that, Kim Ho pulled back an old curtain. In front of him was a busted arcade machine. Before Hyunwoo could ask, Kim Ho explained, this train used to be a tourist train. This area was a casino. Kinda messy, I know. Hearing that, Hyunwoo looked confused. But isn't that thing broken? Kim Ho replied casually, probably. As soon as he inserted a coin, the machine suddenly came to life, surprising even Kim Ho. Okay, maybe not. He stared directly at the active machine. Hidden event, the broken slot machine. Kim Ho grabbed the lever. Better use this chance while I can. The reel spun immediately, and a bottle of water dropped out. He put on a helpless face. Geez, not like I was expecting much anyway. Hyunwoo couldn't help but ask, so why'd you come here? Kim Ho hesitated, then replied, technically this breaks school rules. Not because of the machine, but because of the stuff it spits out. Hyunwoo grew cautious. Then, can I just stand here and watch? Kim Ho chuckled. Sure, the disciplinary committee rarely comes here. They're probably checking other areas right now. At that exact moment, a familiar voice echoed from behind. Hey, what are you two doing here? First-year disciplinary committee member Han Somi. Kim Ho felt a shiver down his spine. Spoke too soon. Somi warned in a strict tone, students aren't allowed to touch this stuff. Kim Ho tilted his head. That's not a point deduction violation though. Can you stall her? Hyunwoo nodded nervously. I'll try. I wanted to test something too. She stared daggers at both of them, her voice slow but threatening. Helping someone break the rules also counts as breaking the rules. You knew that, didn't you? Hyunwoo put his hands together in front of him and exhaled calmly. This is my decision. As soon as he finished speaking, he drew his sword. I heard Lady Han learned swordsmanship from the Sword Empress. Would you honor me with a demonstration? Somi raised her staff. Your name? I am Go Hyunwoo, pleased to learn from you. Upon hearing that, Somi dashed forward with a slight smirk. Very well then. She immediately swung her staff at him with force. Hyunwoo responded by slashing downward with his blade. Her body was knocked back from the impact, but Somi regained her balance in an instant. Then she charged again without saying a word. She swung her staff wildly, aiming straight for Hyunwoo. Kim Ho analyzed carefully. His internal power's weaker, his core still has flaws. Silently observing, Kim Ho still hadn't given up. Too much potential left, time to use amplification. Target's internal core trait upgraded from E to C duration, 0.08 seconds. Cooldown 0.59. Kim Ho muttered, hold that pose for 1 minute, buddy. Instantly, the staff and sword clashed with a spark. At the same time, the system announced activation. On the other side, Kim Ho gripped a handful of silver coins, eyes glancing at the timer 0.14 seconds remaining. Slot machines are the classic casino game. Normally, nobody wants to waste coins on them, but little did they know. This one had an insurance system called Ceiling Hit. The machine began to hum softly. Starting from the 5th silver coin, this was the 5th spin. Kim Ho raised a gleaming silver coin, his eyes lighting up like he just found buried treasure. Here it is, just borrowed one more. The coin dropped into the slot and he stood beside the machine, calculating nervously. Spin 6 had a guaranteed jackpot rate of 100%. Instantly, a C-rank frozen dark crystal appeared, chillingly cold to the touch, with a warning. This item can be lethal. The moment he saw it, Kim Ho's eyes lit up. Got it. Suddenly, Somi lunged toward him. At the same time, Hyunwoo dashed in, swinging his broken sword. Not done yet. Timer 001. Back to Kim Ho, he suddenly downed the potion. That's enough, he said. Somi screamed, hey, don't eat that. Then the system lit up. Frozen status effect applied. He clutched his throat and coughed hard. The system kept flashing notifications. Frozen status effect applied. A while later, Kim Ho casually shook the bottle. I'm fine, see, both of them shouted in unison, huh. They stuttered, what the heck was in that bottle? He calmly replied, basically, it's an elixir that boosts mana. The insurance reward for the 6th spin. For newbies, a frozen dark crystal is extremely toxic. Just a tiny shard can turn you into an ice statue. Of course, Kim Ho was the exception. Thanks to his F-rank elemental resistance, Kim Ho glanced away, eyes scheming. The freezing energy will grow stronger inside. Suddenly, Hyunwoo asked, Lady Han, are you okay with this? Somi hesitated. Not exactly. Kim Ho cut in sarcastically, you saw it all. Only an idiot would still believe. Unlike them, Hyunwoo laughed heartily. Helping you makes me happy, Kim bro. Because of you, I got to duel Lady Han and even got a rare item. Kim Ho smiled back. You've helped me a lot, oh, and you lent me a silver coin too. Hyunwoo then made a proposal. If you don't mind, could you show me that amazing technique? Hearing that, Kim Ho quickly dodged. Next time, it needs cooldown, plus I can't reveal all my cards yet. In his mind, he already plotted it out. 1 hour of cooldown left, can't expose it now. Hyunwoo nodded, understanding. Yeah, a powerful skill like that must have conditions. Kim Ho replied, the day's still long, I'm sure I'll need to use it again. Scene changed to a remote island where a group cheered excitedly. Almost there. The Dungeon Forest Island destination of this train was named after the number of dungeons it held. In the past, this place was a lawless land, crawling with criminals. Then one day, the first ever hero and dragon slayer stepped foot on the island. He wiped out the criminals and conquered every dungeon there. He built a city and founded an academy. Thus, Dragon Slayer Academy was born. Amid the calm setting, overlapping voices echoed. First years this way. Another person shouted, don't go that way, don't follow the seniors. Hyunwoo chuckled like it was the best show ever. At the same time, Nari's cat suddenly scratched a girl who screamed, ah, get it off me. Kim Ho muttered helplessly, man, it's crowded. Just as the group was focused on watching, Chunhai suddenly spoke up. Excuse me. She crossed her arms with a stern look. Please follow us for a moment. In the student disciplinary office, Chunhai raised her voice. Sit down. This is the only room in the disciplinary committee, and anyone who enters leaves a changed person. This is the room of truth. Sehun's voice echoed in the closed room, colder than the air. We heard you consumed something from the slot machine. It seems fine, the scanner didn't detect anything. At that, Kim Ho looked a little smug. Of course, the freeze effect had long worn off. He carefully concluded, guess it wasn't a banned item. Sehun stopped in front of the desk, eyes narrowing. Kim Ho, let me tell you something. Maybe you don't know, but defying the disciplinary committee can get you punished. Oh Sehun, third year, head of the Dragon Slayer Academy Disciplinary Committee. Moments later, his tone softened noticeably. Since no one was hurt and this is your first offense, you won't be held accountable, but I hope this is the last time I see you here. Kim Ho slowly stood up. Yes, sir, Sehun nodded politely. Then off you go, have a great semester. Yes, sir. Kim Ho turned and left. Sehun sipped his tea. Seems like you don't like that kid much, huh? Chun-hai, she clenched her sleeve in frustration. He's suspicious no matter how you look at it. Chun-hai launched into an analysis. If the goal wasn't a banned item, there's no reason to use that machine. She doubled down, and no reason to destroy all the evidence on the spot either. You're thinking what I'm thinking, right? She frowned deeply. Chances are he gained some illicit skill. If we use appraisal, we'll definitely expose him. Sehun, in contrast, remained indifferent. Yeah, maybe. His voice lowered, but what if we find nothing? If we go as far as using appraisal and still come up empty, what then? Her firm stance faltered for a second. Well, that. Immediately, Chun-hai bowed with regret. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. Sehun's tone softened again. I know you're passionate, Chun-hai, but in situations like this, we need to take our time and look at the bigger picture. After a quiet moment, he smiled kindly. Now go on, or you'll be late for the entrance ceremony. Scene shifts to the classroom. Kim Ho stepped in. Thanks for saving me a seat. A screen lit up. Tutorial 3 complete. You arrived at the ceremony on time. Reward, E-rank weapon ticket, 5 silver coins. He glanced at the virtual notice board and smiled faintly. An E-rank weapon's better than nothing, and I even got the exact amount of coins I spent on the slot machine. In the plaza, students were packed in tightly. Someone shouted, there he is that the principal? Doesn't look like much. One whispered, I heard he used to lead a dragon-slaying squad. Principals at Dragon Slayer Academy are usually retired heroes. The title hero is only given to one person among countless S-ranks, just one. He may not look it, but inside him is terrifying power. A student muttered quietly, but didn't the saint reject 4 times already? Another chimed in, it was 5 times, he just got rejected again. Kim Ho smiled silently. At the same time, the principal coughed twice. Welcome, new students. We sincerely congratulate you on entering Dragon Slayer Academy. His voice echoed across the plaza. Dragon Slayer Academy was founded long ago, as the name suggests, to prepare for battles against dragons and to train you to become Dragon Slayer. The principal paused, seemingly debating how many students' ears he should torture with his speech. The first hero emphasized the word Slayer in our name. Think carefully about what it means to slay. If you've never killed an ORGE, you can't call yourself an ORGE Slayer. The principal then asked, what is slaying? If you've never killed a dragon, you're not a Dragon Slayer. Kim Ho groaned, please make it stop. The principal droned on endlessly. Taking life is the fate and core of a monster slayer. Don't deny this truth. Ask yourselves, why do I want to slay? Why do I want to take life from another being? I hope you'll find that answer before graduation. One more. A student yelled out, followed by a chorus from the crowd. Stop already, my head hurt. The principal, either unaware or just ignoring them, continued. May you all become true heroes at Dragon Slayer Academy, that's all. Unlike the grumbling crowd, Hyunwoo laughed with excitement. What a meaningful speech. Kim Ho looked at him, baffled. You're not bored. He nodded with reverence. Bored? Every single word was priceless wisdom. My master talks about stuff like this every day. Kim Ho broke into a cold sweat. Every day. Suddenly, a female instructor with eyes sharp enough to slice pencils stepped up. A quick note. The list of banned items has been updated this year. Anyone caught with these will be disciplined and the items confiscated. Her voice slowed, almost threatening. Unless otherwise notified, all new students may only train on the ground floor of the dungeon tower. If you go lower without permission, your family, mage tower, or guild will face consequences, so be careful. She peered over her glasses, gaze razor sharp. One person's curiosity can doom you all. Understand the internal rules and obey them to avoid punishment. That concludes the ceremony. Return to the dorms in time for dinner. Someone gulped loudly. That's it, straight to the point, huh? At the same time, Byung-chul called out, let's go eat, everyone. Hyunwoo's eyes went wide. Shin bro, what happened to your cheek? Byung-chul laughed awkwardly. This, just a little act. Suddenly, Byung-chul raised his voice. Eat till you're full, okay? Hyunwoo looked puzzled. Why? Byung-chul quickly explained, tomorrow's the first day of class, it's a big one. That night in the boys' dorm, Hyunwoo popped his head out excitedly. Nice, we're room neighbors. What a coincidence, Kim Ho said dryly, then teased, I'm not exactly thrilled though. Hyunwoo laughed awkwardly. Good night, Kim bro. Inside, Kim Ho trudged straight into the room, clearly not planning to sleep yet. He quickly hung his uniform neatly in the closet, then climbed into bed and sat down in a meditative pose. Might as well make use of the free time. Kim Ho sat upright, his whole body radiating a mysterious green glow. He had to create a core. To use any skills involving magic or inner energy, a power source was needed. That source is the core. He suddenly opened his eyes wide. This is my first time trying outside the game, but I already know how to do it. I've absorbed the ice crystal, so I've got enough mana. I can do this. Meanwhile, in Go Hyunwoo's room, he was meditating with full focus. Han Somi was the strongest opponent he had faced since coming down the mountain. True, both had held back during their fight, but if they had gone all out, the result would have been unpredictable. If it weren't for Kim Ho's support, he might have lost the moment his steel sword broke. Master was the word Hyunwoo used to describe Kim Ho from the moment they met, calm like only the strong could be, with eyes that seemed to see everything. Thinking of that, he glanced toward his sword. Should I ask him for help? That thought was immediately shut down. No, he's my first real friend. He returned to meditating, a soft smile forming at the corners of his mouth. I'll do my best first. The next day, in the temporary classroom, the students gathered in full. Yane walked in from outside, weakly waving. Good morning. Hyunwoo's eyes lit up. She's here. I was worried Lady Yane overslept. Kim Ho muttered. She probably did. One student looked around confused. Where's the teacher? Another replied flatly. No idea. Kim Ho sighed. The bell rang and the teacher's still not here. Whoever's homeroom teacher is really slack. Just then, a figure swept past, and the female student turned around, and the faces of the students all changed color. Sudok scanned the class, voice as deep as the pits of hell. Judging by your faces, I must be famous. Pleasure to meet you all. I'll be your homeroom teacher this year. Name's Lee Sudok. He suddenly pointed at a girl. You there, what do people call me? She stammered. The crime hunter. Sudok shook his head. Nope, the two-word one. Trembling, she replied, the butcher. Kim Ho frowned slightly. So it's him. In the world of Dragon Slayer Academy, superhumans who surpassed mortal limits were more common than sand. Among them, some twisted their power for evil. Criminals were everywhere. Lee Sudok's job was to hunt them down, nicknamed the Butcher because he killed more than he captured. The teacher looked at the students with piercing eyes. I don't want to be here either, but I gave my word to the principal. I've never failed a mission. After a breath, Sudok continued coldly, so don't stain my record. Seriously, I'd rather kill you than let you flunk. He scribbled quickly on the blackboard and got back to the lesson. Let me explain how grading works. Sudok stated firmly, theory exams count for 30% and behavior score is 10%. Just breathing and not causing trouble will earn you free points. But beware, behavior score can go below 0% and drag all your other scores downward. Then he paused and added with emphasis, I'll be watching the slackers closely. Who knows, maybe we'll meet again after graduation. Sudok continued explaining the grading system. Next is the most important part, the practical exam. It's divided into dungeon raids where you must progress floor by floor. His voice rang out steadily with an invisible pressure. And duels where students face off. Points are cumulative. In other words, you'll have to perform better than the person next to you. At that, Sudok slammed the chalkboard. Raids and duels each count for 30% of the total grade. Any questions? No? Then let's head to the arena. Outside, one male and one female were locked in an intense fight. Amid the tension, Sudok raised his voice. It's time for the ranking exam. Byung-chul shouted excitedly. Let's go. This is the big one. Hyunwoo suddenly realized. This is what he was talking about yesterday. Keep students ready for any situation. The duel rules change every time. Today's ranking exam rule is death. The match won't end until one side is completely unable to fight, surrenders, or is unfit to continue. The time limit is 5 minutes. If no one wins by then, it's a draw. Byung-chul jumped in to explain, each student fights 3 random opponents. You get 300 points per win. Hyunwoo tilted his head toward Kim Ho. What if it's a draw or a loss? Kim Ho answered quickly, 0 points, but at least you don't lose any. Suddenly, a system screen popped up in front of Kim Ho. Side quest, ranking exam. Goal, finish above average in the test. Win at least one duel 0-1. Rank in top 50% for dungeon raid. Current rank, NA support skill slot +1. He calculated carefully. I just need to win one duel and do decent in the raid. But something else was more important, right? Thinking that, Kim Ho turned his gaze toward Chunhai. Ranking exams were the perfect time to study other students' capability. A chance to spot talents who could be trained up to S rank. or to remember students with copyworthy skills or traits. A moment later, Sudok called over the intercom, Kim Ho, Hong Yeonhwa, get up here. Hyunwoo immediately cheered, do your best, Kim bro. Yeonhwa and Kim Ho stepped onto the stage at the same time. He cautiously studied his opponent, Ruby Tower. Ruby Tower specialized in fire magic, known for high firepower and tight area control, his top pick in the game. Kim Ho let out an involuntary chuckle. Sorry, but play with me for 5 minutes, will you? Yeonhwa stood in the center of the arena, eyes sharp as she scanned Kim Ho. In her mind burned a fierce resolve. I have to make a name for myself. To do that, I need to take down someone with a name, wait, who even is Kim Ho? Her eyes quickly darted to his hand. What kind of weapon is that? Even a rookie mage would laugh at that E-rank Earth staff. It barely boosted Earth magic and defensive spell. Slightly boosts Earth and defensive magic. She analyzed carefully. It clearly wasn't from the Emerald Tower, and he didn't look like an Earth mage either, meaning he was likely using the staff just to enhance defensive spells. The staff's length suggested he prioritized power over mobility. At the same time, Sudok began the countdown. 3, 2, 1. Hearing that, Yeonhwa quickly raised her staff. So he's just a support mage standing still, huh? As soon as the teacher shouted begin, she unleashed an explosive spell. Yeonhwa silently vowed to end it in one swift move. Witnessing the rare scene, students started whispering. Did you see that flash just now? Yup, definitely Ruby Tower stuff. Yeonhwa's expression suddenly twisted. System message, Yeonhwa 100%, Kim Ho 100%. She could barely believe her eyes. No way, that should have been a clean hit, but then. Meanwhile, Kim Ho calmly walked toward her. She felt a sudden chill. Did nothing work on him? The large screen lit up. Score, Hong Yeonhwa versus Kim Ho, 100%. The two stood surrounded by a cloud of dust on the arena floor. Yeonhwa frowned in confusion. Wait, did it not work at all? Did he use a dispel skill? She pointed her staff directly at him while casting a barrier with her other hand. All right, then how about this? Kim Ho looked at the fixed casting technique coldly. Even a dispel won't stop that. Watching the barrier form around him, he thought, let's try moving. If there's even a slight gap, I'll shoot in. Sensing something strange, Yeonhwa immediately grew suspicious. What's going on? His calm demeanor made her wonder. Why is he just standing there like that? His relaxed, almost smug look made her feel like he was mocking her. If he's that confident. Yeonhwa charged a powerful spell from the orb on her staff and shouted, then try blocking this, flame pillar. Fire roared forward. Kim Ho's brow twitched slightly. Then a blazing column of fire engulfed his body. Right after that, a blazing pillar of fire swallowed his entire body. Even the audience in the stands felt the heat. Someone gasped, that's definitely Ruby Tower level power. Suddenly, Yeonhwa's expression froze. Seeing Kim Ho still standing unscathed after the fiery blast, she was stunned. He took a hit from a future Ruby Tower leader and he's fine. She told herself, if this keeps up, I'll have to use my trump card. Just then, Kim Ho calmly released a blinding green light. As it flew toward her, Yeonhwa was shocked to realize it was a hummingbird. The bird dashed toward her at incredible speed. Thankfully, she dodged it just in time. But before she could catch her breath, it turned midair and stabbed her square in the back, making her cry out in pain. The big screen flashed, paralysis status applied. On the field, Yeonhwa collapsed to her knees, sparks of electricity crackling around her body. Kim Ho said coldly, let's end it here. He looked at Yeonhwa with concern and kindly added, you should save your trump card for future match. But given her miserable state, his words felt like pure mockery. Think about the bigger picture. The big screen lit up again. Yeonhwa lost, Kim Ho win. The crowd erupted in surprise. What? Yeonhwa lost, and he didn't even lose 1 HP? Who is this guy? He's not from the Genius Squad. No one's seen him before. Who the heck is he? Hearing this, Kim Ho thought nervously, I'm getting more attention than I wanted. I'll have to be careful now. Just as he was thinking that, the announcer splashed cold water on his plans. Next up, Kim Ho again. His face darkened. Seriously, no break at all. The next name was called Song Chunhai. Students turned in surprise. Song Chunhai from the Yellow Tower? Yeah, heard she got into the disciplinary committee right after enroll. Song Chunhai stepped out, her body radiating heat, her eyes laser-focused. She carefully put on her gloves. It's lucky I get to fight you. There's something I need to confirm. Kim Ho simply stared at her silently, not responding. Then without hesitation, he turned to the judges and said, I surrender. Chunhai shouted in disbelief. What? Teacher Lee Sudok frowned. Why? Kim Ho scratched his head and squinted. I'm not in the best condition. Another fight today would be tough. Lee Sudok replied, puzzled. Isn't more points better? The teacher asked again for confirmation. You really want to forfeit? Kim Ho replied without hesitation, yes, I can't push it. Ignoring Chun-Hai's clenched, trembling fist of fury, he added casually, I'm dropping the third match too. Seeing he couldn't stop him, Lee Sudok nodded. All right, I'll mark it as a law. At this, Chun-Hai scoffed mockingly. Pathetic, always ready to fight, huh? With steely resolve, she declared, my grandfather always told me, never hesitate, no matter how bad the odds. You fight to the end if you want to reach the top. Hearing that, Kim Ho suddenly remembered, wait, her grandpa's the Thunder Emperor, right? Like grandfather's like granddaughter. He could clearly see the Thunder Emperor's strength reflected in her determined demeanor. Sure, it's the mindset of a competitive hero, but it had nothing to do with it. With that, he turned around, waved dismissively, and left Song Chun-Hai standing there in shock. Yeah, guess it's not meant for me. Let's say you win. She turned away from him with an annoyed face. What a disappointment. I must have been stupid to expect anything from you. Suddenly, he blurted out, oh, right. She instantly turned back. What? Kim Ho casually replied, didn't you say you'd give me a dessert voucher? His words made Chun-Hai so mad she actually laughed. I'm still waiting. Then teacher Lee Sudok announced, next, Song Chun-Hai versus Jang Jihung. The moment he stepped out, Jihung laughed loudly. Yellow Tower, huh, this'll be fun. His laughter was abruptly cut off. Hey, are you ready? Lee Sudok shouted, begin. Immediately, a massive surge of power shot forward like a missile and blasted straight at Jang Jihung. Moments later, the screen flashed. Song Chun-Hai 100%, Jang Jihung 0%. On the stage stood her cold, unshaken figure. Byung-chul asked in shock, did she already mark you as a target? Kim Ho replied nonchalantly, seems like. Watching the medics carry Jihung away, Byung-chul let out a breath of relief. Lucky you surrendered, you'd be barbecue by now. Down in the arena, Song Chun-Hai shot Kim Ho a furious glare, like she was about to explode. Byung-chul immediately looked over, concerned. Did you see that face she made? Still beside him, he couldn't stop commenting. As expected from the Thunder Emperor's granddaughter, she's got one hell of an opening. Kim Ho smiled in satisfaction. All right, now all I have to do is win. Above him, a few confused students whispered to each other. Seriously, who quits a ranking exam? Betty saw Chun-Hai and chickened out. That win against Hong Yeonhwa must have been pure luck. Dude's just a coward with no value. Kim Ho caught every word with sharp focus. Not worth worrying about, he told himself, but beating Hong Yeonhwa from Ruby Tower was exactly the kind of reputation he was after. Soon after, teacher Lee Sudok called out again. Next, Song Chun-Hai. Byung-chul peeked at his list and gasped. Oh, she's up again already. Who's the unlucky opponent? Fully geared up, Chun-Hai stepped onto the stage as teacher Lee called the name, Seo Yang. Seeing her enter, Byung-chul was stunned. Huh, a royal guard, that's unexpected. Kim Ho noticed her too. I just found out now too. As her cold face appeared, voices murmured in awe. Now this'll be fun. Royal guards are natural counters to mages. Wouldn't be surprising if Chun-Hai loses this. Kim Ho's eyes lit up with excitement. Who knows, we'll have to wait and see. Byung-chul disagreed. No way, if the guard plays it safe, there's no way she'll lose. Kim Ho turned and raised his hand. Wanna bet 5 silver? Byung-chul instantly agreed. Deal. The score screen lit up, Song Chun-Hai 100%, Seo Yang 100%. Below it was Chun-Hai's sharp, focused gaze. Opposite her, Seo Yang remained calm and collected. The signal blared, begin. Seo Yang immediately opened fire on her opponent. With little effort, Song Chun-Hai stopped the bullets midair with a single move. They froze right before hitting her. Byung-chul groaned from the stands. Huh, blocked already, Kim Ho, unfazed, replied, just as I expected. Judging by her attacks, he could easily tell that Chun-Hai's mana pool was massive. That E-rank hummingbird move she used had D-rank power in her hand. Meanwhile, Seo Yang continued her barrage of gunfire. She swiftly dodged 2 surprise attacks from Song Chun-Hai. Suddenly, Chun-Hai twirled her finger slightly, and a hummingbird shot towards Seo Yang at breakneck speed. Unable to react in time, it grazed her cheek harshly. Electricity followed, paralyzing her body. Byung-chul scribbled in his notebook with regret. Darn, if that hit clean, the match would have been over. Kim Ho disagreed. She dodged it, but her movements are already slowing down. Seeing Chun-Hai standing calmly in the arena, he muttered, once she's shocked, the next hit will surely land. Just as I thought, Chun-Hai's not easy to beat. Just then, a quick hand reached to her waist. Seo Yang pulled a pin and threw something at her opponent. The object flew her way and burst into thick, heavy smoke. Kim Ho blinked in surprise. Huh, a smoke bomb. Byung-chul perked up. Smart, normally it'd get blocked, but this one made it through. As Chun-Hai panicked, his voice rang out with glee. Now the tables have turned. This is where royal guards shine. The dense smoke quickly engulfed the arena. While Chun-Hai was still confused, a powerful strike slammed her from behind. Feeling her back shield absorb the hit, she gritted her teeth. I blocked it, but the impact threw off my balance. Scanning her surroundings, she thought, if this keeps up, I'm in real trouble. From the stands, Byung-chul whispered excitedly, that girl must be loaded, an invisibility cloak in her first year. Her sniper rifle caught his attention next. Smart switched to a long-range weapon too. A bullet zipped by, but Chun-hai narrowly dodged, quickly turned, but Seo Yain had already vanished. At that moment, the big screen showed Song Chun-hai 85%, Seo Yain 88%. Time left 2 minutes 13 seconds. Eyes sharp, Chun-hai scanned every movement around her. I can't just keep defending forever. At that moment, Seo Yain quietly aimed her gun at Chun-hai's back. A bullet flew straight for Chun-hai's head, but thankfully her shield stopped it just in time. She reminded herself to predict the trajectory of mana bullets better. As another shot hit her barrier, she thought, now's the moment. Without hesitation, she spun around. Instantly, Chun-hai spotted Seo Yain's location. An attack blasted toward Yain, who had to fly upward to dodge. Seeing her, Chun-hai regained full confidence. Gotcha. As the lightning shot toward Yain's neck, Chun-hai smirked. Can't dodge that, huh? The jolt electrified every muscle in Seo Yain's body, making her cry out in pain. The scoreboard lit up, Song Chun-hai 85%, Seo Yain 68%. Time left 0 minutes 0 seconds. On the battlefield, Seo Yain had officially been defeated. The smoke slowly began to clear. Kim Ho commented casually, no surprise. Byung-chul, on the other hand, scratched his head in disbelief. She really lost. Seeing Chun-hai's confident stance, he realized no other freshman could compare to her. The display announced Song Chun-hai wins, Seo Yain loses. His eyes shifted to Seo Yain as she slowly got up. But to last that long against Chun-hai, not bad at all. Byung-chul dropped 5 silver coins into Kim Ho's hand. 5 coins, as promised. Suddenly he asked, how about another round? Real men go 3 rounds. Kim Ho frowned. Are you addicted to betting or what? Once is enough. Byung-chul nodded toward the arena and said, well, maybe you'll change your mind after seeing this. Hyunwoo's next opponent is. A bulky man stood directly opposite. Byung-chul introduced him, disciple of the Fist King Jo Byok. He turned to Kim Ho. So who are you betting on? Kim Ho thought for a moment and said calmly, let's see, probably the Fist King's disciple. Hearing that, Byung-chul replied, then I'll go with the other guy. Can't believe you betrayed the boat we're sailing on. Kim Ho showed no emotion. I'm just being honest. Didn't say Hyunwoo will lose right away. Byung-chul blinked. Huh, then what do you mean? Kim Ho just smirked. You'll see. Go Hyunwoo glanced up at the stands and instantly spotted Kim Ho watching. Drawing the sword at his waist, he vowed silently, I'll give it my best, but this won't be easy. Byok noticed and asked, why not draw the one on your back? Hyunwoo replied, it's not time for that yet. Byok repeated, not time, huh? Jo Byok stared him down coldly. I won't go easy on you. Hyunwoo lowered his tone too. That's how I like it. The screen lit up. Go Hyunwoo 100%, Jo Byok 100%. The signal rang out. Begin. Jo Byok immediately charged in with a flurry of attack. Watching his confident form, Hyunwoo thought, yup, definitely the Fist King's disciple. No wasted moves at all. One punch came at him so fast, Hyunwoo had to retreat in shock. His body felt weightless as he was knocked backward through the air. Hyunwoo gritted his teeth, thinking, even with shock dampening, I still got blown back this far. Guess I can't rely on basic moves. Watching Byok charge like a runaway sandbag, a thought sparked in his mind. Fine then. He gently ran his fingers along the blade and muttered, I'll end this with one flow slap. Immediately, 2 opposing forces clashed head-on. As Byok zipped past, Hyunwoo's sword couldn't handle the impact and shattered into pieces, fragments flying everywhere. Seeing that, Hyunwoo sighed in defeat. Looks like I can't go on, I surrender. Byok touched the torn part of his sleeve and calmly said, I'll look forward to our next match. The result popped up. Go Hyunwoo lost versus Jo Byok won. Kim Ho quietly muttered, just as I thought that iron sword couldn't hold up. He recalled a memory. I already had a hunch when I saw it on the ship. He really used that sword like a disposable item. Byung-chul clutched his head in disbelief. No way, you predicted that too. A hand gently rested on his shoulder. You flatter me too much. Kim Ho smiled warmly. Byung-chul sheepishly replied, I'm broke now, no more silver. Kim Ho wasn't mad. He offered a solution. You don't have to pay in coins. Byung-chul perked up. Really? Then what do you want? Share the info you've got, Kim Ho replied. Just then, Professor Lee Sudok's voice echoed from outside. After lunch, we resume the conquest test. Gather at the dungeon tower and don't be late. Dismissed. On the grassy field, students were resting after the exhausting fights. Some sat together awkwardly, looking forward to the conquest. Huh? Others munched happily. Yum, this is so good. Kim Ho's group was calmly chilling too. Byung-chul chewed and spoke at the same time. So, what do you want to know? Kim Ho cringed. Swallow first, man, growth. A moment later, Byung-chul asked properly, sorry, what info do you need? Kim Ho answered, tell me about the key figures in the 4 main factions. Byung-chul agreed easily, sure that info's already floating around. Besides the Academy Disciplinary Committee, there are 4 major factions: the Martial Alliance, Guild Federation, Magic Society, and the Knight Order. Leading them are the grandson of Sword Saint Moa Moyang Hyunsung, Martial Alliance's Moyang Jun, successor to the Ruby Tower, Magic Society's Hong Yonhwa. Guild Federation's Park Nari, always with a cat on her shoulder and secretly packing a ton of potential. And finally, the Knight Order's Li Xiang Haiyan, son of the Grand Swordmaster. After flipping through his notes, Byung-chul added, "These folks are ridiculously strong." Kim Ho nodded, impressive lineup. Suddenly, Byung-chul looked around. Wait, where'd Hyunwoo go? He glanced at his phone screen and yelped, "Oh crap, the club president, I totally forgot." Throwing his legs into action, he dashed off, shouting, "I'm heading out first, sorry." Kim Ho blinked. Man, in a rush. Now only Kim Ho and Yane were left. The air turned awkwardly cold. Watching her quietly nibble on her bread, Kim Ho thought, maybe it's because she was the first person I connected with in this world. I can't just watch her sink like. With that thought, he called out, "Hey, remember that cookie I dropped on the ship yesterday?" He scrolled through the system. Song Chunhai already sent me a dessert coupon. Since it's your cookie, I'll share it with you. He brought over a blueberry tart and smiled. "Let's eat together," Yane softly replied, "Thanks." While munching, Yane suddenly spoke up. Kim Ho tilted his head. With some crumbs still on her lips, she asked seriously, "Do you think I really lost to Song Chunhai?" Kim Ho let out a breath and answered, "Basic mana bullets can't penetrate a strong mana barrier. A mage with a bigger mana pool naturally has the edge." Seeing Yane's puzzled face, Kim Ho held up a bullet. "But if you enhance the mana bullet, it's a different story." Yane asked, confused, "Enhance mana? I've never done that before." Kim Ho's eyes widened. "What? Don't tell me you've never tried it," she replied, "Never have." Then came his next question, which made her freeze. "So, how have you been creating mana bullets all this time?" Kim Ho asked in surprise. "You've never created a mana bullet before?" Yane replied without hesitation, "Nope, never." He froze, staring at her and muttering, "A genius, maybe. Mana bullets are like the ABCs for any musketeer." Looking at Yane's clueless face, his mind swirled with questions. So she's been fighting purely on instinct this whole time, and she even gave Song Chunhai a run for her money without ever training her mana, if that's true. After thinking hard for a while, he finally said, "If you don't mind, could I take a look at your skills?" Yane nodded, "Sure." With a confident grin, he encouraged her, "Training your mana and learning skills will make everything way easier." Suddenly, a bell rang, followed by Professor Lee Sudok's voice, "Time for the ranking test." At the dungeon hall, Lee Sudok stood before 3 gates and announced, "Now that everyone's here, I'll explain the dungeon trial." He looked sternly at the lined-up students and laid out the rules. "The test will be held behind these dungeon gates. It's the Mist Forest route, 10-minute limit, point-based, fixed area F, and there are 2 special rules. First, scoring. You'll earn points based on how many monsters you defeat within 10 minutes. Your goal is to rack up as many kills as possible. Second, everything in the fixed area will be locked at F rank. Equipment, skills, traits, everything gets downgraded." Sudok warned carefully, "And don't forget, your mana core also drops to F rank, so be careful. Mismanaging your mana here will make you regret it." He added, "I'll call your names one by one." The early participants ended up sprawled on the ground after the test, shaking like leaves and groaning in pain. Seeing them, someone thought, "Seriously? Crying like bobbies? This really is a disaster." Sudok glanced sideways, thinking, out of all these kids, only a handful are worth anything. In a quiet corner, Han Somi's group had aced the trial, scoring a jaw-dropping 928 points, rank 1, 530 points, top 20%. Seeing how few people passed, Sudok sighed internally. "Only these 2, I already feel a headache coming on," he called out tiredly. Next group. 2 names echoed through the hall, Seo Yane, Kim Ho. Suddenly, he grabbed her wrist. "Wait a sec, Seo Yane, use a rifle for this one." Yane obediently nodded, "Okay." From afar, Chunhai shot a death glare their way. Meanwhile, Kim Ho gently advised, "If controlling mana gets too hard, just aim for the head when they get close." Yane nodded calmly, "Okay." Chunhai thought, "Wait, he doesn't even use guns. Why's he giving gun tips?" Just before entering the gate, he waved at her, "See you on the other side." Now entering the fixed area. Looking around, Kim Ho muttered, "Mist Forest, huh? Been a while. Everything scaled down, skills, traits, gear." He tapped the system screen. "Let's see where we are. All right, let's do this." At the same time, the test screen lit up. 10 minutes remained. Right in front of him, a green monster was charging in. At the same time, the clock started, 9 minutes and 59 seconds left. The monster immediately chomped down on a tree root in front of him. He swung his sword in a perfect arc, sending it flying backward. In the misty forest, monsters would spawn randomly the moment you enter. His eyes darted around, tracking even the slightest movement. Still, some attack patterns felt familiar. Judging from that goblin's position, this was Type C. Without hesitation, Kim Ho slashed toward one direction, meaning the next one would come from there. Just as he predicted, the knife flew straight into the monster trying to jump out. The blade stabbed right into its eye socket. The creature fell flat on the ground with a loud thud. He exhaled in relief. Guess I won't need the staff after all. With an axe in one hand and a knife in the other, he grinned with confidence. There were weapons lying all over, thanks, orcs and goblins. Kim Ho stepped toward the mob of monsters gathering for an ambush. He imagined this test as just another game, confidently gripping the axe. Time to farm some points. As soon as he said that, terrifying screams echoed through the quiet forest, blood spraying like red mist. Moments later, the monsters were already looking at him with a tinge of fear. Around the same time, the screen showed 7 minutes and 2 seconds remaining. Kim Ho instantly locked in on their locations. 2 were sneaking from the edge, gotta be careful not to get caught on camera. Casually, he tossed the knife at the trolls and started swiping through the system screen. Whoops, if the footage saves how I move and hunt, it could cause some misunderstandings. Better delete it. Looking at the screen, he sighed. 683 points in 3 minutes. Dang, I'm farming like a bee. He tapped the system screen and muttered, all side quests done, score above average, win 1 duel, place in top 50% in the dungeon test. Rank isn't set yet, copy bonus slot 1. Any higher and I'll get too much attention. Standing in front of the gate, he thought, that's good enough, time to head out. As soon as he walked out, he ran into Xiao Yang. Her body looked unbelievably wrecked and her score popped up too. Xiao Yang, 781 points, top 21%. Kim Ho walked up and asked, you okay? She sighed, dead tired. Ignoring the stare from Professor Lee Sudok, he asked Yang worriedly, tired, but your score wasn't bad. Sudok frowned, thinking, didn't this kid quit the duel? And he didn't even last 10 minutes in the dungeon, he's totally dropping out early. Sudok shot him a disapproving look and mumbled to himself, with willpower like that, how's he gonna slay dragons? Wait a minute. Seeing his score, the professor was shocked. An average ranker got that many points in that little time. Kim Ho, 683 points, 38%. Has this ever happened before? The look in Sudok's eyes changed completely. He muttered, Kim Ho, gonna need to dig into this. The teacher then called the next name, Go Hyunwoo. Ho leaned over and said, be careful in there. Hyunwoo turned back and replied, I'll be back soon, senior. Looking at the top 3 scores, a thought popped into his head. That's Lee Seong-hyeon, son of the Grand Swordmaster. Rankings. First, Lee Seong-hyeon 951 PTS, second Han Somi 928 PTS, third Moyongjun 903 PTS. Moyongjun, isn't he the grandson of the sword sage? Kim Ho pondered, if Han Somi is top tier, then Go Hyunwoo isn't some pushover either. Not long after, the rankings updated. Sudok silently nodded, just as I thought. New scores, first, Go Hyunwoo 1023 PTS, second Lee Seong-hyeon 951 PTS, third Han Somi 928 PTS, fourth Moyongjun 903 PTS. As Hyunwoo exited, whispers filled the area. Isn't that guy from that group? No wonder he did so well. Wait, over 1,000 points, for real. Kim Ho rushed up with a beaming smile. Great job, Hyunwoo politely replied, all thanks to you, senior. He happily extended his hand. Let me rest up now. Thanks to your advice during the duel test, I racked up a ton of points. Kim Ho scratched his head. You're flattering me. Seeing their friendly exchange, someone behind them sneered, what's that guy's deal? Leeching off the top ranker like a loser. Another added, didn't he drop out of the duel exam? Hyunwoo overheard and got mad. Hey, but Ho quickly stopped him. It's fine, let it go. Hyunwoo pouted and muttered, but senior, Ho quickly reassured him. I said it's fine. Hyunwoo sighed and lowered his voice. All right, if that's what you want, Kim senior. Kim Ho looked up and asked, everyone done? Hyunwoo glanced at the board. Still no sign of Lady Chunhai's result. Glancing at the still-closed gate, Ho tilted his head. She's still in there. Meanwhile, inside the zone, Chunhai was surrounded by a horde of monsters. She raised her sword and said, this is nothing. Suddenly, she flinched and shouted, what the hell? Seeing the monsters barely flinching, she was shocked. I knew the power would drop, but not that much. At that moment, Kim Ho's advice to Yang popped into her mind. If mana control is too hard, just aim for the heads when they come close. She was surprised to realize. Chunhai clenched her fist, annoyed. Why is his voice echoing in my head now? Her mana was restricted, and wide-range spells were basically useless. Following his advice, she launched a pinpoint lightning spell. Fine then, aim for one spot, lethal lightning strike. Just as she walked out, her score was displayed. Song Chunhai, 571 points, top 47%. Seeing her poor score, her face flushed red. Why'd it show up so fast? This is so embarrassing. At that moment, Professor Sudok announced the end of the ranking test. Results will be out tomorrow. Rest up, don't bomb the final. With that, he turned and walked away without a second glance. Cut to another room, a cheerful voice rang out. Yes, come in. Then a surprised gasp. Professor Lee Sudok, what brings you here? Professor Lee planted his hands on the desk, voice firm. I want to see the dungeon challenge footage for Kim Ho from class 1-3. Oh, interested in a student, that's rare. Sudok lowered his voice, looking serious. No time for chit-chat, show me the footage. The teacher quickly replied, yes, let me check. Staring at the screen, the other teacher sighed. Kim Ho's replay wasn't saved, so it's unavailable. Sudok asked eagerly, what about the dungeon log? The supervisor hesitated, that would be in the access log. But Lee Sudok's eyes widened. Just as I thought, that brat Kim Ho deleted his own dungeon record. Looking at the score data, he grew suspicious. At this pace, he could have hit 2,000 points in 10 minutes. Kim Ho, Foggy Forest, 1331, 02 to 1334, 28, 638 points, 38%. Why is he hiding his power? He started calculating. In this Dragon Slayer Academy, the stronger your team, the more enemies you attract. Servants of dragons, cultists of evil gods. If one of them sneaked into the academy, we'd better get a plan ready fast. Sensing something was off, the teacher asked, should we report this to the principal? Sudok hesitated. But after a moment, he firmly said, no, just monitor him for now. If info leaks without evidence, they'll only hide deep. He turned away, but his eyes stayed fixed on Kim Ho's info. If he really is a threat, he'll bare his fangs soon enough. We'll be watching. On the screen, Kim Ho's picture lit up in high definition. 3:27 p.m., Dragon Slayer Academy cafeteria. Kim Ho walked to the counter and said, one coffee, please. Hyunwoo chimed in, I too wish to experience this coffee. Yain stood beside them looking gloomy. I'm heading back. Seeing her drained face, Kim Ho didn't stop her. We'll hang around a bit longer. Putting his coffee down on the table, Kim Ho said to Hyunwoo, take a look at that booklet we got at the end of class. Hyunwoo replied, oh, you mean that little flimsy book. Staring at the pages in front of him, still not understanding much, Kim Ho encouraged him, that's exactly why we need coffee. Time to dig into what actually mattered today. He gently reminded him, start with your student card. On the card it read, Go Hyunwoo, class 1-3, score 3069. Hyunwoo gasped, whoa, that score wasn't there before. Kim Ho explained, that number is your available points. Go Hyunwoo, class 1-3, 3069 points. It's basically your currency here at Dragon Slayer Academy. Holding up a page from the booklet, Kim Ho pointed, you usually earn these from dungeon raids like earlier. You can use them to buy stuff or access facilities. And right now, there's one thing worth spending on. Slamming the booklet on the table, he asked, did you notice the prompt about recording playback before you left the dungeon? Hyunwoo jumped, yeah, I saw that. Kim Ho grinned and said, well then, you can actually buy it now. A screen popped up, purchased replay 100 points, view another student's dungeon run. Looking at the glowing orb in front of him, Hyunwoo immediately recognized it, Han Somi's dungeon footage. Then Kim Ho remembered, since you ranked first, your footage is probably being bought like crazy right now. Right on cue, the screen lit up, replay sold, plus 100 points, plus 100, plus 100. Hyunwoo exclaimed, whoa, it's skyrocketing. But suddenly, Hyunwoo looked worried. Wait, isn't it bad if people see how I fight? Kim Ho sighed. Yeah, they'll try to pick apart every little weakness, even how you sneeze mid-talk. Kim Ho let out a sigh of relief. Luckily, this was a solo test, so you could aim for the top. But in direct combat, it includes mana duels. A weak core gets exposed right away. Then he raised his voice and explained, still, the risk's worth it. We can use this to access the mana training room at the training center. A vision of a body brimming with mana popped into his head. The most important place there was the special mana room, where the mana was extra thick, making your inner strength grow crazy fast. Hearing this, Hyunwoo shot up and asked, there's really a place like that? Kim Ho answered without hesitation, of course, but you need to qualify first. Hyunwoo's voice suddenly dropped, then it must cost a ton of points. Kim Ho replied, yup, 500 points for every 6 hours. Hyunwoo sat back down, scratching his head. So if I go every day, Kim Ho continued, you'll be broke and eating imaginary food. Hyunwoo looked up any other options. Kim Ho grinned, there is season pass. He told Hyunwoo only the top member of each faction gets one. To earn it, you'll have to snatch Moyoung Jun's spot in the night order. Hearing that name made Hyunwoo stutter nervously. I don't think I'm ready for that. Hyunwoo mumbled, guess I'll have to be stingy with my points for now. Kim Ho offered, I'll get it for you, just promise to repay me later. Hyunwoo curiously asked, what do you want from me? Kim Ho stared into his eyes, join me in the deep dungeon. Let's level up together. Under the table, Hyunwoo clenched his pants tightly. Kim Ho's voice echoed in his ears. But thinking back to that foggy forest earlier, it could be dangerous, you still want in. Surprised by his intensity, Hyunwoo replied firmly, a martial artist should always crave strength. You've already laid the path out. Thumping his chest with conviction, he declared, there's no way I'd turn down my benefactor. Of course I'm in, Kim Hyung. Seeing the fire in Hyunwoo's eyes, Kim Ho smiled. Great, then go all in, burn those points and root yourself in the special mana room. I'll get that season pass in 2 weeks. Without hesitation, Hyunwoo replied, 2 weeks it is, I'll wait. Meanwhile, Kim Ho had a thought, while he levels up, I'll do some gear trading. At workshop number 4, Kim Ho gently pushed open the door and cautiously said, excuse me. Inside, a figure was focused on their work and responded, who is it? Kim Ho stepped in with an awkward smile, hi, I'm here because I'm interested in the Magic Engineering Club. The guy still soldering asked, then why not go to workshop 1 first? Kim Ho explained, I did, but they told me to start from workshop 4. The repair guy grumbled, clearly annoyed. He took off his goggles, revealing tired, dark-circled eyes that perfectly matched his cranky face. Look around if you want, but don't bother us, we're busy. Understanding the senior's stress, Kim Ho politely turned away. Okay, I'll look around quietly. Watching the guy skillfully handle the soldering, Kim Ho guessed, this dude's magic engineering skill must be at least grade. Before leaving, he stealthily extended his hand behind the guy and activated copy. He thought to himself, target 1 complete. The system popped up, skill added to empty slot. Magic Engineering B copied skills, 221 Whistlebird E2, Magic Engineering B. Kim Ho glanced at the still busy repairman and thought, the next target must be somewhere nearby. A satisfied grin slowly spread on his face. There it is, he said to himself. Holding up an odd object, he called out, hey, I found this, it looks valuable. The repair guy looked over. That, a 10 by 1 by 10 cube. The guy casually explained, you'd need mad high-level skills to even try. No one touches it, it's basically junk. But Kim Ho stared at the cube with fascination. So cool, if you don't need it, I'll take it, not for free of course. The system displayed, purchased, acquired thermal reaction catalyst, minus 1,000 points. Kim Ho beamed and handed over an item, here you go. He was confident in what he gave. The thermal reaction catalyst wasn't top tier, but in magic engineering, it was always useful. The repair guy accepted it, just this once, okay, and don't go blabbing. Kim Ho cheerfully replied, thanks, big bro. Behind Kim Ho, the guy happily held the vial. Sweet, saved 1,000 points. Kim Ho chuckled inside, dude sold me trash for 1,000 points, who wouldn't be happy? Looking at his system screen, Kim Ho wondered, is this really junk? New side quest appeared, the cube beyond the gate. A strange cube found in the Magic Engineering workshop. Goal, rank average or higher in placement exam to unlock quest chain. Reading that, he smirked. So it was junk, no sane person would bother with this nonsense. Final quest reward, S-rank item, the life cube. Entering a room, a thought popped up. I've upgraded so many S-rank heroes already. This was the mana room at the training center. Hugging the cube, he thought, I already know how to use it, who needs a quest? On screen, use Amplify, upgrade Magic Engineering from B to S duration, 59 seconds. Cooldown 58 minutes 58 seconds. Kim Ho eagerly raised the cube. Let's go. With each twist, the countdown ticked. Time left 47 seconds. Kim Ho picked up another cube. The timer read 14 seconds left. He thought, at this pace, I'll finish in 3 days. Soon after, a message appeared. Amplify expired, downgraded Magic Engineering from S. Nearing completion, he exhaled. 1 minute flies fast. Kim Ho sat cross-legged in front of the cube, thinking, if I drop rank, I can't use it. Better meditate and refine my core. The timer hit 0. Kim Ho suddenly opened his eyes, thinking, meditate, twist, 1 minute, repeat. System alert, Amplify activated, duration, 1 minute, upgrade Magic Engineering from B to F. He placed his hand on the cube, purple energy swirling around his knuckles. He reminded himself he had to finish the life cube before Friday because that event kicks off on the first Friday. Seeing the sunlight cutting through the walls, he realized, oh, it's already morning, time for school. Kim Ho sat at his desk and greeted Yane. Good morning, you're here early. She glanced at him coldly and replied, yeah, I woke up early. Seeing the seat next to him still empty, he wondered, Hyunwoo's not here yet. Suddenly, Yane slid a small package his way. Here are some cookies. He looked surprised and exclaimed, "Oh, for me, thanks." Picking one up, he grinned, "Dino cookies. These are awesome." Just then, Hyunwoo arrived behind them. "Kim Hyungseo, Miss Yane, good morning." While munching the cookie, Kim Ho asked, "Why so late? How was the special room?" Hyunwoo excitedly replied, "That was insane. I've never seen my energy rise that fast. I think I'm about to break through." Hearing that, Kim Ho beamed, "Great, I'll get the seasonal pass as soon as I can." Hyunwoo smiled gratefully, "Thanks, bro." Meanwhile, Yane pouted inside, thinking they're not even real dinosaurs. Just then, Sudok entered with a stern tone, "Everyone, quiet down and take your seat." Standing at the podium, arms crossed, the teacher announced, "Before class, a quick notice. Starting today, we'll begin direct combat matches in the arena." Sudok briefly explained the rules: 10-minute time limit, random map, deathmatch rules. Then he added, "First years must participate in at least 3 matches this week. Skip it and lose points. You've been warned." Kim Ho smirked after hearing that. "So it begins. I'll win this combat round." After thinking for a moment, he walked over, placed his hand on Hyunwoo's shoulder. "Let's hit the arena. First matches are the juiciest." As Hyunwoo responded, a small hand tugged his sleeve. "Okay, let's go already." Yane looked at him with hopeful eyes. "I'm free today." The students behind looked confused. So did he. Wait, what do you mean?" After regaining composure, he asked, "You mean training mana bullet like last time?" Yane nodded slowly. "Yeah." He sighed in relief. "All right, I'll see you later then." Yane emotionlessly replied, "Okay." That afternoon at the arena, as Kim Ho and Hyunwoo entered, a curious voice spoke up. It belonged to. From a distance, Yang Jihang scoffed, "You heard? That guy's friends surrendered before even fighting Lady Song. No respect at all, what a coward. Just heard about it recently." Hyunwoo shouted angrily, "You really run your mouth like that in public?" He was about to say more, but a hand stopped him. "Pathetic." Hyunwoo blinked in confusion. Kim Ho ignored the two and casually asked, "Did you take the ranking test?" "I got 300 points. What about you?" Jihang immediately broke into a sweat, though still tried to act cocky. 300, you think I'm at the same level as this sword master?" He yelled, "You think I'm the same rank as some no-name guy like you, if it weren't for meeting Song Chunhai in round 2. Hearing that name, Kim Ho's voice lit up. "Song Chunhai? Oh yeah, the one who got struck by lightning and had to be carried out. That was you." Veins popped on Jihang's face as he forced a smile. "What did you say?" Jihang growled word by word, "Fine, good thing we scored the same." With a smug face, he pointed his spear at him and shouted, "Get down here, you coward. I'll show you the wall you'll never cross." Right after that, a duel was initiated between the two. Yang Jihang versus Kim Ho, 100%, 100%. Jihang twirled his spear with arrogance. "Just one strike is all I need." Kim Ho calmly nodded. "One hit is all it takes." The referee signaled and the two instantly lunged at each other. It began. With the spear tip heading straight for his face, Kim Ho didn't even blink. He whispered mockingly, "Idiot," fell for it again. The screen says paralysis effect applied. Jihang blinked. "Wait, what?" Kim Ho raised his weapon, voice cold as ice. "Sorry, but you won't get away in one shot like Song Chunhai." Jihang panicked and tried to block. There was a 2-second delay. Too slow, a blade slashed down, followed by a miserable scream. The big screen showed the result. Yang Jihang lost, Kim Ho won. Kim Ho shrugged with a smirk. "Well, the coward just won." Jihang gritted his teeth. "I was just careless. Let's fight again, I'll win this time." Kim Ho didn't even flinch. "Oh, then let's do it again." The screen reset. Yang Jihang versus Kim Ho, 100%, 100%. Jihang roared, "This time won't be so easy," and the match began again. The result, same as before. Kim Ho looked at the mess of a man and asked, "Why are you still this bad?" Jihang, covered in bruises, cursed, "Damn it." Swollen face and all, Jihang barked, "This time I'll win for sure." Kim Ho snapped, "Shut up, you lunatic." He turned away. "I'm tired, that's enough for today." Looking at the screen, Kim Ho sighed. "I need 3 duels for this week's objective." The display clearly said, "Week 1 side mission, complete 3 duels by Sunday midnight. Rewards depend on win count. For now, I'll pretend I don't need to finish." Suddenly, he turned to Jihang. "If you want, I can teach you, but first." He sat down and pointed to the ground. "Tuition fee, please." Jihang clenched his jaw. "You monster." Still, Jihang pulled out a wooden box. "Here, my family's refined elixir. I'll give you one." Kim Ho's eyes lit up. "Ooh, fancy." Kim Ho lowered his voice seriously. "One more condition, no recording this match, and don't speak a word about it outside." Jihang nodded. "Yeah, it'd suck for me too if it got out." Taking the box, Kim Ho smiled. "Cool, I've got the fee. I'll keep going until you're satisfied." A while later, the screen once again showed. Yang Jihang lost. Kim Ho won. Looking at Jihang's battered body, he said, "Good enough, you did well." Suddenly, Jihang sat up and muttered, "Wait, I want to apologize for how rude I was earlier." Scratching his head, he awkwardly admitted, "I judged you too soon. You're not a coward." Kim Ho casually turned away. Nah, just let me be the coward for now. Jihung blinked. Be the coward for now. After Kim Ho left, Jihung mumbled, all right, I won't tell anyone. I can't be the only one suffering. At that moment, Kim Ho walked up cheerfully. Go Hyunwoo, I'm done. How about you? He replied brightly. I've already won 2 matches. Staring at the system screen, Hyunwoo said, I'll finish my 3rd match before heading out. Kim Ho, you go first. Kim Ho cheered him on. All right, do your best. Later at the Mana training room, Kim Ho asked nervously, did you wait long? Come sit. Yain replied flatly, yeah. The two sat facing each other, beginning their first lesson on Mana Bullet. Kim Ho tested her current skill level. Try forming a Mana Bullet. Seeing the Mana floating steadily in her palm, he thought, damn, she could push Song Chunhai into a corner just by randomly making these blobs. Her confused gaze didn't faze him. Let's start with distribution. First, use the right amount of mana for 1 bullet. Next. Sometime later, her performance screen popped up. Score Seo Yain 99%, Quack Jicheol 98%. Jicheol crouched under a mountain, shielded by a mana layer. He carefully calculated his blind spots. As long as I stay hidden from the guard's view, I can use the terrain, but digging through all these dunes. But Yain had a special eye. She spotted an odd mana flow among the dunes. Thought crossed Jicheol's mind. Even if she blows up all the dunes, my barrier won't break. As a bullet grazed past him, he coolly thought, no need to worry about someone who can't even break through Song Chunhai's shield. Then panic hit as his barrier shattered. Wait, what the heck was that? From afar, Yain kept aiming directly at him. The bullets rained down. Jicheol clutched his head, screaming, ow, ow, ow. After the chaos, the result showed. Seo Yain wins versus Quack Jicheol loses. Scene change. Inside a tall building, one room stayed lit late into the night. A magical orb displayed Jihung's match. A thought surfaced. The hummingbird's erratic movement, her control is top tier. Teacher Sudok was rewatching everyone's matches closely. In the second round too, she's just toying with them. Looking at the cluttered desk, he muttered, but that's not the only issue here. In front of him, Chunhai's orb, Seo Yain's ranking, and her crude mana bullets all stood out. Just then, Jicheol's terrified face flashed as the crude blobs turned into perfect bullets. Can someone change that much in just 2 days? Sudok recalled Kim Ho's words during class. You meant practicing mana bullets like yesterday, right? Fine, I'll meet you later. His face soured instantly. This guy again. Seeing Kim Ho's always calm face, Sudok wondered, Kim Ho, who are you really? At the same time, the energy cube completed formation. Kim Ho silently rejoiced, it's done, finally done. Right then, the screen flashed. Life Cube B enhances life storage items by 1.3 times. Watching the reactions under his hands, he smiled, yep, it's finally perfected. Life Cube B now boosts life storage items by 1.3x. He raised his head with a sly grin. Thanks to the amplification skill I got as a reward, I completed this just in time and leveled up my core to rank D. Also got tons of cash. That poor crying kid really burned mana like crazy, but his cash helped. Thanks, kid. A random idea sparked in Kim Ho's head. Everything's ready, time to start the rumor mill. Just then, like fate itself lending a hand, he turned around. Oh hey, perfect timing. It was the Nature Club's genius druid from the Federation. With that thought, Kim Ho quietly approached her. Park Nari, sorry to bother you, but I need your help. He cast a spell in front of a bewildered Nari. Animals are more sensitive to life energy. No way one of them would ignore. She jumped and looked at Kim Ho. Booma, what's wrong? He smirked, watching it hop around, just as I thought. Meanwhile, Nari panicked and reached toward Booma. Sorry, I'll take it out right now. Booma, get out here now. In that moment, Kim Ho observed her closely. Yup, total druid vibes. She felt the life energy. Time to play along. He grimaced and said, I'm in a hurry, just get the pet out already. Nari, more flustered, yanked hard. Sorry, it's never acted like this before. After a while, Nari looked up at him curiously. Hey, aren't you in class 3? Kim Ho nodded without hiding. Hearing that, Nari gave an awkward smile. Well, sorry then, you should go. He smiled kindly, but inside he was smug. Perfect. The Nature Club will hear about this. Getting that colored ticket just got easier. Let the real event begin. Meanwhile, the instructor's voice droned on. A common pairing is a goblin warrior and a melee swordsman. Turn to page 76. On the other hand, Kim Ho stared ahead, absent-mindedly tapping the desk. 1 more minute till lunch, 59 seconds now. Then the instructor slammed the book shut and dismissed the class. He kept counting. 32 seconds, 0. Byingchul stretched and yawned. Finally over. He stared in confusion at a glowing orb. What is that thing? Suddenly, intense heat radiated from the orb and the students started screaming. After the chaos, Byingchul looked down at his wrist, dazed. What just happened? There's nothing here. He looked around the room feeling puzzled. What the heck is that orb? A barrier, my poor heart. At the same time, a male student pointed. Hey, there's a number above your head. A girl blinked. Wait, you have one too. Surprise item inspection at Dragon Slayer Academy. Forbidden wave activated. A magnetic field detected students carrying prohibited items. Anything inappropriate was added to the ban list. The forbidden wave aims to sniff out illegal gear. Kim Ho broke out in a cold sweat. Welp, I'm screwed. Damn, sound effects are terrifying, but this is Sudok's doing. While others panicked, Hyunwoo looked amused. This is gonna be fun. Kim Ho sighed. These two didn't even bring anything. He glanced toward Byingchul, but that guy, oh boy, the guy was panicking, pulling at his hair. What the heck, what is this? In a flash, Kim Ho walked over. Didn't your club president warn you about an inspection today? Byingchul muttered, yeah, but not like this. As he spoke, Byingchul clung to his screen and wailed, I'm doomed. If they see all this junk, the president's gonna kill me. At the same time, Kim Ho began negotiating. Want my help or not? The guy glanced over, half doubting. Seriously. Hearing that, Kim Ho shrugged and turned to leave. Fine, forget it. Byingchul quickly grabbed him. No, it's my honor, boss. I'll do any. Moments later, Kim Ho sat down with satisfaction. You owe me now, Byingchul bowed frantically. Yes, boss. Kim Ho touched a cube and spoke in a low voice. Put the items in here, just the rare and foldable stuff. The guy looked confused. What happens when I put them in? Kim Ho urged. No time to explain, just do it. Seeing Byingchul still hesitating, Kim Ho pretended to glance around. Looks like someone's coming, class is starting. The guy instantly trembled. Seconds later, Chunhai's stern voice rang from the classroom door. Everyone, sit down. The atmosphere froze. She raised her voice. What are you two doing over there? Kim Ho coolly responded, sleeping. Chunhai squinted at him. Really? Byingchul hurried to back him up. Yeah, just a quick nap. But she didn't care. Hand over any banned items. She raised her hand and a pale blue orb floated in front of her. I don't know how you slipped through, but your little tricks won't fool this orb. Then she slowly moved the orb toward him. No way. After a moment of silence, Kim Ho spoke. It's not reacting. Can I go now? She frowned. Sit down. He calmly took a seat, lips curling into a smug smile. This is why I wanted to wrap it up before Friday. For a second, Chunhai leaned in and Kim Ho screamed internally. That item can bypass forbidden waves. Anyone who knew its real value would kill for it. Time to make a trade. Outside, Byingchul expressed his gratitude. Seriously, thanks. Without you, I'd be mopping floors or dead in some random alley. Kim Ho grinned deviously. I'll be collecting on that favor. Think of it as a loan. Byingchul nodded. Of course, boss, I'll never forget this debt. Then Kim Ho warned, take those banned items to your club room. Byingchul quickly nodded. Got it. The club president wants to meet you too. From trading contraband to stirring trouble, welcome to Dragon Slayer Academy's Little Devils, the Thieves Club. A while later, Byingchul appeared at the door. He scratched his head awkwardly. Big sis, we're back. Female voice screamed from inside, followed by a flying kick. Didn't I tell you to stay clean this week? What did you do now? She stomped on Byingchul, fuming. I said it was important. He covered his head, begging, I'm sorry, please stop. Amid the chaos, Kim Ho calmly stepped in. Hello, ma'am, reporting in, I'm Kim Ho. Jayu Yong turned sharply and shot him a cold glare. I'm Jang Jayu Yong. I guess you figured it out. I'm the club president. She gave Byingchul one more stomp. I heard about today. A banned item slipped through the wave. Huh, show me. Kim Ho politely replied, yes, ma'am. A moment later, Jayu Yong couldn't help but exclaim, damn, that's the real deal. Honestly, I had to see it to believe. She eyed it hungrily, hands reaching out unconsciously. Something that can trick the forbidden wave. I'd totally snatch this if I could. Kim Ho cautiously warned, you'd get caught right away. He stared at Jayu Yong suspiciously. No way the mastermind of the Thieves Club doesn't know about anti-theft charms, right? She looked away in annoyance. What, it's magic tech, okay? Instantly, Jayu Yong leaned back in her chair and spoke with fake indifference. Anyway, you're here for something, aren't you? Kim Ho chuckled. Knew you. Pick that up, sis. She casually waved around the room. Take a look, nothing here. This club's dirt poor. Kim Ho shook his head and looked at her. Doesn't matter, what I want is within your power. Jayu Yong looked doubtful. And that is. Without hesitation, Kim Ho stated his request. Let me into the temporary storage. Jayu Yong's face instantly changed. She raised her voice. Who the hell are you? The temporary storage is where confiscated items wait to be destroyed. Normally, at the end of the week, the stuff gets reviewed, then vanishes into some secret vault no one knows. But Kim Ho quickly guessed latest by tonight or tomorrow. Jayu Yong ignored that and continued pressing. Answer me, did the disciplinary committee send you? Caught off guard, Kim Ho denied it fast. What? No way, I can't stand those guys, I just need something from there. She shook her head firmly. Even if I'm grateful, I can't let you in for free. Took me forever to set this up. Friends or not, no except. Kim Ho slammed his hand on the cube and spoke coldly. The committee's guarding the temp storage, right? Breaking in is hard. Getting out is harder. He looked her in the eye with determination. But if I can guarantee a way out, that should be enough for a pass, right? She began calculating. If we manage to sneak in, Kim Ho cut in, we split the loot on exit and call it even. In his mind, he knew she can't say no now. He looked up and stared at her. You insist. Amid the silence, the group had gathered near the mountainside. At that moment, Jaeyu Yong turned to them. Everyone here. One guy quickly replied, glancing at Kim Ho. Yeah, but who's this guy? Jaeyu Yong didn't bother hiding it. I added one more to the mission. Introduce yourself. The group looked annoyed. You're bringing a newbie to an important job. Byung-chul jumped in to calm things down. Nice to meet you, man. Don't mind them. Let's just have fun working together. Unlike the others, Davin was focused on checking the map. Moments later, she reported quickly, 1 minute left, ma'am. Jaeyu Yong nodded. Good job, Davin. You support from outside. Everyone else get ready. Just then, she reminded Kim Ho, don't draw attention, be careful. If you get in, grab the rare small stuff first. With that, Jaeyu Yong stomped her foot. All right then. She dashed forward, let's move. At the same time, Kim Ho scanned the area. Grade B stealth movement, life block complete. I won't need magic tech for a while. Silently, he reached toward Jaeyu Yong and activated copy. Target, stealth walk B copied. Copied skill 2, 1 hummingbird E, 2 magic tech B, 1 stealth walk B. Your footsteps just got sneakier. Meanwhile, Johan was quietly standing guard outside. Suddenly, a swarm of butterflies appeared out of nowhere. He blinked in confusion, staring at the butterflies. At the same time, the system screen lit up, shadow flight. Johan looked baffled at the mist swirling around. What the heck? In an instant, Johan was wrapped up tight, struggling frantically. On the 3rd floor of the old building, Byung-chul clicked his tongue in annoyance. Annoying, how many damn protection spells are there? Just then, a male student shouted, startling him. Who's there? The student immediately tightened his grip on his magic staff and yelled, intruder. In the blink of an eye, the student was bound up by a bunch of people with rope. Before leaving, Byung-chul kindly offered advice. Just stay still, flailing only makes it worse. Meanwhile, Jaeyu Yong rushed ahead in a panic. The temp storage is just around that corner. Hold on, check the area first, then charge in. She pulled out a strange mirror-like object. Jaeyu Yong stared into it and cursed, damn it, why's that stupid goblin guarding today? He's a pain to deal with alone. Unlike her, Kim Ho stayed calm. He eyed the object in her hand. 3rd year, carrying an A-rank axe dubbed the Hell Chopper. That's a bit too much for Jaeyu Yong. Guess I gotta step in after all. He whispered softly, sis, you know how to use Shadow Realm, right? She whipped around in shock. How'd you know that? He urged her quickly, no time to explain. Can you use it or not? Jaeyu Yong admitted honestly, only beginner level rank C. Hearing that, Kim Ho replied cryptically, good enough. Seeing all this, Jaeyu Yong grew even more suspicious. How the heck is he doing this? But he ignored her again. No time, let's go. Noticing something off, she couldn't help but wonder, just who is this guy? She snapped back into focus and activated Shadow Realm in an instant. Meanwhile, a swarm of butterflies flew straight at Sehun. He cursed instinctively, damn leech bug. Sehun swung his axe fiercely at them. But the butterflies kept multiplying, and he started to panic a bit. From inside came a terrifying scream. Jaeyu Yong glanced back inside. That grumpy axe guy got taken down in one hit. That had to be a rank level. Before turning away, she shot Kim Ho a warning. We'll talk later. Kim Ho stayed calm. Let's just finish the mission first. Right after that, Jaeyu Yong shouted a command. Everyone grab your stuff and let's go. The group responded in unison. Back with Kim Ho, he looked at the cube with satisfaction. Time to do a little shop. He scanned the storage. The forbidden item list of Dragon Slayer Academy only bans items with harmful side effects on the body or mind. In no time, he snatched up 2 crystals. What I need are items banned due to elemental penalties, but with my S-rank resistance, those penalties are useless. Kim Ho slid them into his pouch and glanced around. Alright, got what I need. Now let's grab some skill books. Those with elemental penalties usually pack a punch. At that moment, he curiously opened a box. Let's see if there's anything juicy in here. Inside was a book radiating spiritual energy. Kim Ho gasped, jackpot, I don't even have a combat skill yet. I need to learn this ASAP. Behind him, Seung Yi stepped in through the door. Late night run, huh, tough gig. Chunky scowled at the group like they were sewer rats. First day of the semester and y'all already pulling a hike. Jaeyu Yong instinctively turned. What brought our Os Noble head prefect down here tonight? She sighed in annoyance. First Guak Seung Yi, now head prefect Song Chunky. Chunky ordered with a firm voice, "That's enough. Hands up and march to the disciplinary room." Jiao Yong hesitated, but hesitation would only make things worse, so, with a spark of genius, she yelled, "Scatter and run." Instantly, she cast a shadow spell, forming a dome of darkness to cover her teammate. Within seconds, the entire group vanished into the black mist. Seung Yi whispered, "The intruders just left the storage. Don't let a single one escape." At the same time, Kim Ho bolted out like a four-legged beast. A wooden plank suddenly flew straight at him. Kim Ho dodged swiftly, and the plank smashed right through the wall. Watching that, Seung Yi raised an eyebrow. "Nice dodge." Kim Ho blinked. "Guak Seung Yi, when did he get here?" Seung Yi gave him a cold stare. "I've identified most of the thieves, but I've never seen you, first year, huh?" In the dead silence that followed, Seung Yi smirked. "Not talking to hide your voice, clever." As soon as he finished, he launched a volley of thorn darts. "Guess surrender isn't on the table." On the other side, Kim Ho was desperately dodging fatal blows. He clicked his tongue, hummingbird skill, useless. In a flash, dozens of solid objects flew straight toward Seung Yi. His face gradually stiffened. "I've never seen control like this before. Without a ward spell, I'm screwed." Seung Yi turned to glance at Kim Ho. "Not bad for a first year." From behind came his cold voice, "But still." Seung Yi bent forward. "That's as far as you go." He shouted with a clenched jaw, "This ends now." In the blink of an eye, an explosion erupted from the other side. Seung Yi stared wide-eyed, gaze locked ahead. Cocky punk. He couldn't help but feel smug. Nobody surviving that. What kind of heat was that even? Out of the thick smoke, Kim Ho emerged, clenching his fist tight. A chill ran down Seung Yi's spine. No way, that skill. Seung Yi was nearly going insane. That had to be a forbidden skill. Only a lunatic would dare use it. Damn it. Turning back to Kim Ho, his gaze was fixed firmly on Seung Yi. Immediately after, Kim Ho decisively unleashed the Hellfire Fist technique. He turned his head toward his arm, which was smoking, thinking it would be harder than expected to control the fire. This was going to take some effort. Kim Ho thought to himself there was no mortal wound, so the school wouldn't handle it directly. But Guak Seung Yi's guild, the Emerald Tower, and the disciplinary committee would surely intervene. Kim Ho rubbed his head in frustration. These organizations would track his traces everywhere. Annoying, but they wouldn't be able to find him. Suddenly, a voice echoed in his ear. The voice came from nearby. Kim Ho startled, thinking he had to escape quickly before getting caught. Beside him, Chunhai hurried out and said, "Senpai, quickly take him to medical." In the disciplinary committee room, also known as the Room of Truth, Jiao Yong crossed her arms, looking displeased. She said, "How long do you plan to keep me here? Just deduct points and let me go already." At that moment, Chun Kai, bored, turned and said, "My work here is done. I'll leave now. Too tired." Sehun forced a smile and replied, "Go ahead." Immediately after, he pulled out a stack of papers and smiled warmly. "All right, take a look at this first. If you cooperate, everything will be done quickly." Jiao Yong nervously took the papers. She asked, "What's this?" Then for a moment she thought, "Oh, Kim Ho got some expensive stuff." At the same time, he tilted his head to examine Jiao Yong as if asking whether she understood. He noticed somehow that many items had disappeared. Hearing that, she casually shrugged and said, "It's not the first time I've seen this." Seeing her attitude, he changed his tone to serious. "If you keep refusing, everyone will have to take responsibility." Jiao Yong didn't care at all and replied without hesitation, "So what? I'll take it." Sehun sighed helplessly. "I knew it." Before leaving, he reminded her tomorrow the disciplinary officer would take action. She boldly stepped out, leaving a line, all right, I'm going." Outside, the young boy asked, "Is Jiao Yong okay?" Davin worriedly asked, "What will the committee do?" Jiao Yong didn't answer directly, only said casually, "Thanks for your hard work. I'll explain more back at the club room." At that moment, she blankly counted people. "Why are there only 4 of you? 1, 2, 3, 4. Where's the other one?" Just then, Chunhai suddenly appeared and spoke mockingly, shamelessly still pretending. Jiao Yong, confused, asked again, "Huh, what do you mean?" Chunhai immediately got angry and growled, "Your guild member used Hellfire Fist. Senpai Seung Yi is in the medical room. It almost caused a big incident." Hearing this, she broke into a cold sweat, exclaiming, "What? Guak Seung Yi ended up in the medical room?" She couldn't help but feel uneasy, thinking about the Hellfire Fist again. That kid was really dangerous. Just then, a loud shout echoed from outside the door. Jiao Yong asked, "Kim Ho, is your hand okay?" She anxiously stared at his hand, asking, Really fine, I thought you used Hellfire Fist." Kim Ho instinctively waved his hand. "I didn't use that. I haven't figured out how to handle it yet." Jiao Yong couldn't help exclaiming, "So you were really prepared." Then she hurriedly changed the subject. "All right, so the items are safe, right? Kim Ho immediately took out a cube and said, "Yes, here it is." Jayu Yong stared at the pile of objects with hungry admiration. "Oh my, overall so cute, how can they be so colorful?" Then he quickly poured them onto the table. Kim Ho said, "Deal completed." Jayu Yong didn't care and kept staring at the pile, exclaiming, "Wow, way too flashy." Annoyed, Kim Ho turned and said, "I'll be going then." Seeing this, Jayu Yong quickly spoke up to stop him. "Wait, Kim Ho, you're joining our club, right?" She gently poked his shoulder with her finger and said, "I'll treat you well, I'm recruiting you, see." Immediately, Jayu Yong bluntly exposed Kim Ho. "I've been watching you, that arrogant and greedy head is really a true thief." Kim Ho chuckled awkwardly. "I don't know if you're insulting me or recruiting me." Then Kim Ho pretended to turn and said, "All right, I'll decline." She panicked, shouting, How did you change your mind in a blink?" At this point, Kim Ho didn't hesitate to expose the truth in return. "The reason you want to recruit me is because of the life cube, right? I'm about to sell it." Jayu Yong was dumbfounded, speechless. "What?" Kim Ho calmly admitted, "I need season passes to the special training room, 4 of them, so what?" She broke into a cold sweat. 4 season passes just to avoid the forbidden wave, isn't that a bit pricey? He suddenly said something puzzling. "The forbidden wave is just part of it, it also has a scientific power." Jayu Yong reflexively asked, "What exactly is that power?" Hearing this, Kim Ho gently made a proposal. "I'll show you the detailed description, but I have a favor to ask." She looked displeased and asked, "Why so stingy? What favor?" He quickly replied before she could react, just asking her to pass a message to the head of the Magical Technology Club that a freshman had completed the 10 by 10 cube. Jayu Yong didn't think much and nodded in agreement. "All right, nothing difficult, show me the description." A moment later, she exclaimed in astonishment, "What? The life item effect increases by 1.3 times. Can this kind of item really exist?" Jayu Yong focused on the screen and said, "No wonder it's so expensive." Kim Ho tentatively asked, "Is that okay? I'll excuse myself first." Just as he turned, she spoke in a regretful tone, "Kim Ho, so you still want to recruit him?" Jayu Yong looked up at Kim Ho with a friendly gaze. "You should think carefully about this." Hearing that, he could only sigh, "Yes, ma'am." A few days later, at the Sot Long Academy campus, Kim Ho awkwardly looked at Seo Yain, who seemed very sleepy, nodding off. He asked, "Did you get enough sleep last weekend?" She tiredly nodded, "Yes." He looked skeptical. "Really? It's only Monday morning and you already look this sluggish." Kim Ho glanced behind him, wondering, being followed, planning to confront me directly, probably someone from the Emerald Tower or the Nature Club. He started to get annoyed. "Fine, whatever, but this is troublesome, maybe handle it now." Kim Ho suddenly spoke, "Seo Yain, you go ahead first." He immediately turned and said, "I suddenly have some urgent matters, I'll join the class as soon as it's done." She suddenly noticed something was off and nodded, "All right." Immediately, Kim Ho turned back and questioned, "Why are you two following me? If there's something, speak directly." The green-haired boy confirmed without hesitation, "You revealed yourself, so we didn't have to waste time looking. We are members of the Emerald Tower, got it?" The girl next to him forced a smile. "Our guild leader wants to invite you over, can you come with us?" Hearing this, Kim Ho frowned, showing annoyance. "I have nothing to do with the Emerald Tower. If you want a meeting, come find me directly." He smirked and said, "If words don't work, you want me to use force? Really unreasonable." Just as Jun was about to charge, Kim Ho said, "I was thinking the same." Immediately after, Jun screamed in pain. The girl looked horrified at his convulsing body. "Hummingbird." Kim Ho spoke, his cold eyes scanning the group. "If you still want a beating, go ahead and attack. I don't have free time." The woman immediately raised both hands. No, sorry to bother you," she shivered. The hummingbird's movements were unpredictable, there's no point taking useless hits. Then the girl bent down and gently shook Jun. "I'll take him back, you go ahead." Seeing that, Kim Ho coldly turned and walked away. Fortunately, someone still knew how to assess the situation. The girl curiously asked, "Hey, is it true he's a coward?" Jun replied with a displeased expression, "No, it's not that, he was just lucky. Next time, I'll definitely this humiliation." However, at that moment, a bullet suddenly shot through, hitting the target dead on. The female student exclaimed in panic, "Where that sniper coming from?" Immediately, the bullet lodged in her head. The female student sighed in disappointment, "Why me?" No sooner had she spoken than both of them fell to the ground. Meanwhile, the instructor continued to patiently teach. The dungeon was designed so complexly to drain the explorer's energy before reaching the core. If resources were depleted before reaching the goal, the expedition would be considered a failure. Kim Ho looked worriedly at Seo Yain, asking, "Why are you even later than me? Did you go somewhere?" At the same time, the instructor announced that this expedition would be timed. He looked up at the students and said, "The above-ground dungeon can be conquered multiple times during practice, but the score is only recorded once. You need to reach the goal and break the wall within 5 minutes. Therefore, it's best to find the most efficient path through practice before officially starting the challenge. Alright, class ends here today." Immediately, Byung-chul leaned forward. "Hey Hyunwoo, you pair with me in the dungeon." Hyunwoo looked surprised, blinking me. Kim-ho waved his hand. "Don't worry, you two go together." Hyunwoo blushed a little, replying, "Since Shin Hyung said so, I obey and will guard this side with Shin Hyung." Byung-chul smiled in satisfaction, deciding it was a wise choice. He quietly glanced in one direction and said, "Well, I guess I already have someone going with me." Seo-yeon gently tugged Kim-ho's sleeve and said, "Go with me, please." Elsewhere, the green-haired youth was pressed against the wall. An angry voice shouted, "What a shame. A disciplinary committee member being beaten by a thief like this. You two really smear my face." Then the brown-haired guy turned to glare at the girl beside him. "What's this? A famous swordsman? How many people can't defeat him? Pathetic." Saying that, he released the green-haired youth. He sat down, sighed, knew it would end up a disaster. The girl with braided hair beside him added, "But I should still meet him directly." It turned out that the girl was the president of the nature club, Ha Saiyan, while the brown-haired one was Bok Yoonghwa from the Emerald Tower. Yoonghwa agreed with Saiyan's opinion. They needed an official meeting, otherwise the Emerald Tower's reputation would hit rock bottom. He put on the most expressionless face and continued, "That strange box of his isn't enough to make up for the humiliation. If you disgrace the Emerald Tower, be prepared. I'll make sure he pays." At that moment, the green-haired youth got up saying, "I'll make amends, I won't make the same mistake again." Yoonghwa, angry, questioned, "Are you allowed to speak here?" Still, the green-haired youth pleaded, "It was just my carelessness, please give me one more chance." Yoonghwa's entire body suddenly radiated the darkest energy imaginable. He said sternly, "If you make another mistake, you'll be expelled from the tower. Want to try again?" Although a bit reluctant, the green-haired youth firmly declared, "Yes, I will make sure not to disappoint you." Immediately, a massive creature appeared behind Yoonghwa. He said, "Then I'll lend you a golem to crush your way to victory." The green-haired youth bowed respectfully and replied, "I will win, sir." Scene shifts to the goblin swamp, Seo-yeon and Kim-ho sprinting ahead of the goblin's gaze. Kim-ho said, "No rush, this is just practice." Seo-yeon hummed in acknowledgement but kept speeding forward. Looking at her side quest board, the goal was to conquer the challenge dungeon by Sunday night. Kim-ho thought to himself, to earn the highest reward in single and duo dungeons, it seems it must be finished in under a minute. Seeing the goblins leaping ahead, he calculated, single dungeons are easy, but duo dungeons are the real challenge. Teaching Seo-yeon their attack patterns would be easy, but it wouldn't benefit her growth at all. Letting her realize it herself during practice is better. At that moment, a waterlogged goblin, a formidable creature, appeared before them. Kim-ho slammed on the brakes. Then he asked Seo-yeon, "Do you want to avoid it like before or take it down?" She quickly asked, "Will we get points if we kill it?" Kim-ho replied, "You'll gain an extra 120 points if you defeat the boss." Hearing this, Seo-yeon immediately drew her gun and declared, "Let's do it." Kim-ho threw a hummingbird at the boss, saying, "All right, I'll support you." Seo-yeon took the opportunity to move aside. However, the problem was that the goblin could easily swipe Kim-ho's hummingbird away with a flick of its hand. Fortunately, Seo-yeon arrived just in time to give the goblin a blast. She fired a bullet straight into its head, yet it didn't suffer any damage. Instead, it turned to glare at her with the most infuriating expression possible. The goblin immediately accelerated. It charged straight towards Seo-yeon. Then it swung its massive blade, nearly slicing her in half. On the brink of death, Seo-yeon's face remained expressionless, as if thinking she couldn't die, just wait for revival. Luckily, Kim-ho had timely applied amplification to his hummingbird skill, instantly upgrading the skill from E to C. He shouted loudly, "Stop!" The goblin hit was instantly stunned, frozen in place. Seo-yeon immediately aimed her gun at its head. A sharp beep sounded along with a system notification. Kill points, remaining time 18 seconds, bonus 120 points, critical 14, remaining 2 minutes 29 seconds, extra reward 500 points, total 649. Kim-ho was slightly surprised. "First try and already that good, you could probably be even faster," Yeon replied. She then hesitated for a moment before asking, "Hey, can you teach me how to make magical bullets like earlier?" Kim-ho felt a bit pleased, thinking she's more enthusiastic than he expected. That boss's hit must have stung her a little. Instantly he replied, sure, let's check our gear and head to the training center. Very quickly at the shooting range of the training center, Kim Ho spoke, today we will learn the skill of firing. Now you can create magic bullets and a gun as tools, but you still haven't connected them together. Let me give a visual example. Suppose your hand is the gun, then Kim Ho conjured a magic bullet in his hand. He immediately fired the bullet at the target while continuing his explanation. Focus your mana and release it with a snap of your fingers. That's basically how firing works. It's the same as creating a bullet. Do you want to try using your hand first? Under Kim Ho's guidance, Yane quickly conjured a bullet and tried to follow his instructions. Kim Ho reminded her, then focused mana at her fingertip and flicked it away. However, for some unknown reason, Yane's bullet flew backward and hit Kim Ho on the head. He sucked in air in confusion and asked why it went backward. Seeing that this method wasn't working, he decided to change the plan. Forget creating bullets for now, just shoot mana directly. Saying that, he quickly walked off, adding, keep practicing, I'm going to find something to snack on. Hearing this, Yane called Kim Ho back and said, wait a moment, take this. She didn't hesitate and handed him her black card, which left Kim Ho utterly stunned, blinking and thinking, wow, a wealthy lady. Later, he arrived at the school cafeteria. Coincidentally, Chunhai was also there. The moment Somi saw Kim Ho, she waved her hand and called out loudly, hey, you there. Chunhai reflexively peeked over and asked, who is that? Seeing Kim Ho waving at her, she clenched her teeth in anger and wondered, why does it have to be him? A thought suddenly flashed in her mind. No, this might actually be useful. I need to check a few things. Immediately, Chunhai stood up and said, sorry, can I take a look at your hand? Kim Ho, a bit confused, asked, what, why all of a sudden? It turned out that Chunhai was thinking the mysterious thief had used Hellfire Fist in the temporary warehouse, mastering the hummingbird like a toy, and had connections with the thief club, so he must be the #1 suspect. Then Chunhai said, I just want to see your palm, I need to check a few things. On the surface it sounded polite, but in reality she was thinking that if he had used the fire fist, there would definitely be burn marks. After hearing Chunhai's response, Kim Ho was slightly surprised and said he didn't expect her to be interested in that. Chunhai, thinking he seemed flustered, happily showed it and continued, let me see, what are you hiding? However, before she could finish speaking, Kim Ho held out his hand and said, here, take a look. Seeing his hand without a single mark, she was stunned, then urged, let me see the other hand too. Kim Ho thought, both hands, really? Professional, huh? Chunhai was getting more puzzled, no trace at all from Destiny. Seeing her still not done, Kim Ho prompted, are you finished yet? How long are you planning to look? This awkward moment made Chunhai a little embarrassed and she turned away, saying, sorry, I'm done looking. But a mischievous guy like Kim Ho wouldn't let her off that easily. He called her back and asked, weren't you checking my palm? How's my love fortune then? Immediately, Chunhai growled in anger. It's no wonder you'll stay single forever. Seeing her sulky look, Kim Ho felt a bit pleased and thought, it seems they are still looking for the temporary warehouse culprit, but I've acted dumb enough. I'll probably be cleared of suspicion soon. The next day, Kim Ho once again entered the dungeon with Yane, and while running, he reminded her, remember, do it like we practiced, got it? Yane immediately obediently replied, got it. Miss Yang raised her gun and shot blap blap, taking down a goblin, then fired boom boom to take down another one. Finally, she used a sniper shot combined with Kim Ho's hummingbird for a finishing move. The boss could only stand there in shock and accept its death. This time, the bullet not only pierced the central control unit, but also shattered the boss's large sword. The system board popped up a notification. Time remaining 1 minute 20 seconds, goblins killed 28, elite monsters killed 149 points, time remaining 3 minutes 48 seconds, bonus 500 points, total score 728. Kim Ho happily said, Yane, that was quite the squeeze. Yesterday's effort has finally paid off. However, at that moment, he was a bit surprised. It was the first time he saw Yane smile. Then the scene shifted to the arena, where many students were near the teleport gate. Kim Ho and Yane also prepared themselves to face the solo dark dungeon. Kim Ho glanced at Yane and reminded himself that she had defeated the double dungeon before, so she should be fine. Now just focus on my own task. A notification rang out, instructing them to engage the goblins. Immediately after, Kim Ho activated his power, unleashing a punch, instantly defeating all the monsters in front of him. Kim Ho realized controlling his power was harder than expected. Another notification appeared. Time 442, elite monsters defeated 120, remaining time 728, bonus 448 points plus extra 500 points, total 948 points. Seeing this, Kim Ho was satisfied. Even if it was a fake dungeon, I might have gone a bit overboard. I just need to reset it before leaving. The final notification confirmed completion of the side mission for the second week strategy, showing both solo and duo dungeon times along with upgraded rewards. Checking the details, Kim Ho realized the rewards were confirmed at the highest level, so he could leave without further consideration. The system prompted him to choose rewards, increasing enhancement-type recovery skills, illusion and debuff skills, and wind system skills. From the start, Kim Ho had aimed for this trait, perfectly matching the path he chose, a comprehensive support that could both deal damage and assist. The system confirmed, you have received the blessing trait of West Wind. After that, at the teleport gate, Kim Ho stepped out, noticing the person in front of him, Bok Yoonghwa. The master of the Emerald Tower stood there, and right beside him was Saiyin, head of the Nature Club. Soon after, they requested to speak with Kim Ho privately. At the cafeteria, Saiyin began by sincerely apologizing to Kim Ho for what had happened. The conversation quickly shifted when Saiyin showed interest in a special item. Understanding their intention, Kim Ho did not hesitate to hand over the cube. At that moment, the green-haired girl's cat reacted to the item, then dashed toward the cube before curling up inside it. Yoonghwa immediately confirmed the nature of the item while the green-haired girl urged it to come out, but Kim Ho calmly told her, "It's fine, let it stay there." Saiyin observed the scene with curiosity and said, "Because of its aura, this seems to be a very strong life system artifact. May I see the item description? Then I swear on the club's honor I will keep the information secret for you." Seeing no harm, Kim Ho agreed. Right after seeing the item's description, Yoonghwa was truly shocked to realize its effect was 1.3 times stronger, surpassing the lifespan of ordinary items, and Saiyin was equally amazed at its power. Then Saiyin casually suggested checking if Kim Ho wanted to sell it, but he hadn't decided yet, as just owning it already carried great value. Seeing Kim Ho's hesitation, Yoonghwa confidently patted his chest and emphasized that this item would shine brightest in the hands of someone who knows how to use it, insisting, "Don't waste it, just hand it over to us." Faced with such insistence, Kim Ho felt slightly awkward but put on a composed front, saying, "I understand your point, but I still need to think it over." Hearing this, Saiyin added another condition, promising that he could give Kim Ho something of equal value if he agreed, and Kim Ho secretly felt pleased that his goal was already within reach. Immediately, he coldly demanded 4 tickets to the special training season, specifically 1 season ticket plus something of equivalent value to 3 tickets, saying, "I want a blank skill book." Hearing this request, the two were momentarily stunned. Yoonghwa slammed his hand in anger, saying it was outrageous. "Aren't you being a bit greedy?" Saiyin agreed and added, "Season tickets are fine, but the blank skill book is way too expensive." Seeing their harsh reaction, Kim Ho simply coldly refused, "Fine, then forget it." Noticing Saiyin's hesitation, Kim Ho decided to step back and suggested dropping the deal. Just as Kim Ho was about to leave, Nari spoke from behind, revealing that she actually had a blank skill book and admitted she hadn't used it yet. Nari explained that she didn't have the right skill to inscribe it and might keep it in her inventory forever, glancing at her little cat with a hint of doubt. She smiled, realizing the kitten really liked that cube, and upon hearing this, Saiyin agreed to let her have it. With gratitude, Nari presented the blank skill book. Without hesitation, they handed over the item, quickly completing the transaction. Kim Ho appreciated the smoothness of the exchange, taking the item and secretly feeling pleased about the successful deal. Suddenly, the quiet atmosphere was broken when Jun abruptly stood up, his voice full of anger, demanding a challenge. Kim Ho remained calm, refusing and dismissing the idea as unnecessary. Jun clenched his fists in frustration, insisting that one-on-one duels were a matter of honor. But Kim Ho pointed out the irony of someone preaching honor while having teamed up with others against him, leaving Jun flustered and unsure how to respond. Immediately after, Kim Ho quietly walked away, saying he had no intention of wasting time on such pointless challenges and told Jun to boast all he wanted. Seeing the opportunity slipping away, Yoonghwa pulled out a card, announcing the reward for the match, hinting that this confrontation was far from over. The card turned out to be a VIP ticket, immediately raising the stakes. Yoonghwa then questioned whether this match was truly worth Kim Ho's time. Sensing the advantage, Kim Ho smiled lightly and accepted the challenge. Jun allowed him to choose the day, and Kim Ho decided that 2 days later would be the suitable time. He explained that he needed those 2 days to master something first. Yoonghwa, confident in his own judgment, remarked that the time to design and learn a skill was too short, then challenged Kim Ho to do his best. Kim Ho was full of excitement, asserting that they could look forward to the upcoming result. 2 days later, the arena was packed with spectators, with Kim Ho's friends seated in the crowd, while the leader of the Thieves Club looked worried about the match. She wondered why Kim Ho agreed, pointing out that Manhwa probably had a scheme already. Byung-chul responded, saying that Kim Ho must believe he could win and already had his own strategy. Nevertheless, despite those words, a sense of unease lingered. Hearing this, the Thieves Club leader had to watch carefully, guarding against any unexpected tactics. Meanwhile, in the arena, Jun prepared for the match, putting on his gloves and acknowledging Kim Ho's courage for not backing down. The stage was set, tension rising as the match was about to begin. Kim Ho understood the stakes with a simple thought. A VIP ticket was on the line and there was no reason to refuse. From the audience, Manhwa reminded both sides that the match would be recorded for replay, letting everyone watch. Both Kim Ho and Jun agreed. The starting signal rang out, calling both fighters into the arena. Immediately, a system notification appeared. The map was set in the Shadow Zone. The rules were a death match within 10 minutes, and the point rate was displayed at 100% for both Kim Ho and Kwak Jicheol. In the blink of an eye, they were transported to another location, and the battle officially began. Jicheol was filled with excitement and determination, reminding himself of the level difference between them, confident that this time he would prove himself. However, Kim Ho did not respond with words, focusing entirely on activating his power, a faint glow flickering at his fingertip. The sudden light caught Jicheol off guard, and the attack appeared abruptly, leaving him stunned. Before he could react, Kim Ho's strike landed, sending him crashing to the ground. As Jicheol struggled to stand, Kim Ho remarked on the ground, saying enduring it was no hardship. Yet Jicheol's dramatic display suggested otherwise. Frustrated, Jicheol summoned stones, preparing to launch a new attack called Earth Cluster. He hurled the rock straight toward Kim Ho. With calculated precision, Kim Ho dodged the incoming stones, and skillfully flipped one of the stones back at Jicheol. This left Jicheol stunned, realizing his own trick was now being turned against him once again. An explosion rang out, and as the dust settled, Jicheol lay sprawled on the ground, both frustrated and determined not to let the match slip away. Struggling to rise, he acknowledged Kim Ho's strength and prepared a more serious attack, determined that this battle would end with his victory. In a sudden display of power, he summoned a colossal entity behind him. A giant wooden figure infused with the strength of the ancient forest breathed life into a massive tree trunk. The giant stood tall behind Jicheol, signaling that the next stage of the battle would be far more dangerous and intense. From the stands, Jae Young watched the battle, her irritation mounting. Upon seeing the wooden giant, her anger erupted and she shouted in fury. Byung-chul tried to calm her, but it only made her annoyance escalate. She then turned her furious gaze toward a third-year student observing from afar, upset at his presence and blaming him for letting the situation happen. Nearby, Manhwa kept his eyes glued to the arena, unconcerned with the chaos around him. Silently, he noted that even though he had hoped the wooden giant would not be summoned, destroying it would not be a real challenge. Meanwhile, Jae Young's thoughts spun rapidly. With so many eyes on the match, Kim Ho could not risk using his most dangerous move. Perhaps someone should intervene. Yet Kim Ho remained calm, his face blank, showing no emotion. While he calmly observed the giant wooden figure before him, his opponent, full of excitement, tried to intimidate him with threats. But Kim Ho's mind wandered elsewhere, recalling 2 days ago in the Mana training room. He remembered his quiet training sessions, reflecting on the most effective type of support. He understood that the answer would always change depending on the situation. That was also why support skills existed in many forms: healing, enhancement, and weakening. But for a well-rounded person, he knew no skill could be more optimal than the one he had chosen from the blank spellbook. Back in reality, Jicheol was determined to end the match decisively. He unleashed the wooden giant toward Kim Ho, but Kim Ho calmly dodged the massive attack. He used his skill to climb up and scale the wooden giant. As he prepared to counterattack, Kim Ho reflected on his choice. For someone aiming for a wind-type support role, copying this skill from the blank spellbook was the most effective and strategic decision. Immediately, with a precise strike, Kim Ho defeated the wooden giant, neutralizing it instantly. At that moment, a notification appeared before him, detailing the skill just used: Wind Force, channeling physical strength into the wind, enhanced by the blessing of west wind and further amplified by amplification. The scoreboard instantly updated, recording his victory over Kwak Jicheol. From the stands, his friend erupted in excitement, cheering loudly at the display of skill and precision. Witnessing such a fierce battle and seeing the wooden giant defeated brought immense satisfaction, making the victory even more glorious. Meanwhile, Yunghwa was furious at the outcome, silently dumbfounded. Immediately after, Yunghwa entered the arena and handed Kim Ho the promised VIP ticket, which Kim Ho received politely. Kim Ho then suggested keeping the match replay private, reasoning that the Emerald Magic Tower might not want it publicized. The club members, including Seung Yi and Yunghwa, expressed their irritation at Kim Ho's request, questioning what he wanted in return. Calmly, Kim Ho replied that he only wished for a small favor later, and hearing this, Yunghwa, without glancing at him, agreed, officially sealing the deal. As both left the arena, Kim Ho reflected inwardly. Though outwardly the deal seemed like a generous gesture, his true intention was simply to retain control over the replay, keeping it private for his own purposes. Kim Ho activated his skill once more, watching the faint swirl of energy around his hand with a satisfied smile. He pondered the impact of his new power, wind force, thinking that the slower the news spread, the more advantageous it would be for his strategy. Soon after, his friend approached, expressing admiration for the recent victory. In response, Kim Ho handed over the promised VIP ticket. This completely surprised Hyunwoo, leading to a short, playful teasing exchange between them. Kim Ho reminded his friend that he had predicted winning it within 2 weeks, but before the moment could settle, Jae Yeon approached, barely able to hide her excitement, asking about the deal he had made with Yunghwa and praising his negotiation skills. Kim Ho only smiled faintly, evading the topic until she calmed down. As the conversation grew more serious, Kim Ho reminded her of the favor he had mentioned earlier, and Jae Yeon nodded in acknowledgement. She then brought up the Magic Engineering Club, nodding that they had expressed a desire to meet him soon. Internally, Kim Ho realized this was the perfect timing. A surge of eagerness rose as he prepared to meet them without hesitation. The scene shifted to Magic Engineering Workshop Number 1. Upon entering, Kim Ho could not help but marvel at the magnificence of the place. The atmosphere was completely different from Workshop Number 4, where he had received the cube. This place exuded a special sense of sophistication and impressiveness. Soon after, someone quickly approached him and introduced himself. Kim Ho then realized he was Bong Yi-seok, a third-year student and also the president of the Magic Engineering Club. Yi-seok explained that he had received information from Jae Yeon and signaled for Kim Ho to follow him to the club room. Noticing the urgency in every gesture, Kim Ho acknowledged it but quietly followed without complaint. Inside the office, they sat facing each other across the table. Yi-seok mentioned the cube, admitting that technically it belonged to the club, but insisted he had no desire to cause unnecessary conflict. Reaching out, he requested to see the completed cube, emphasizing that no one else but Kim Ho could have crafted it. But then Kim Ho calmly revealed that he no longer had the cube, leaving Yi-seok momentarily stunned. Kim Ho explained that he had handed it over to the club for safekeeping, which irritated his senior, causing him to stand up and declare the meeting a waste of time. Before leaving, Kim Ho took out several documents, surprising Yi-seok. This clearly showed that Kim Ho had not come empty-handed. This left his senior momentarily speechless, both astonished and curious. His amazement surged when he saw the documents. His eyes widened as he realized the papers contained the 10x10x10 cube blueprint. Sweat dripped down as he examined each page, noting the meticulous attention to detail in every configuration. Although he quickly realized the blueprint was not yet complete, the excitement overshadowed it as Yi-seok hurriedly asked if Kim Ho still had the remaining parts. Kim Ho calmly and firmly assured him they were safely stored. Yi-seok, eager and even slightly breathless, urged Kim Ho to state his request. Kim Ho presented only one condition: the right to use the equipment of Workshop Number 1. After a moment of thought, his senior agreed to allow usage during the day, with exclusive privileges from midnight to dawn. In return, Kim Ho provided a few more documents, officially finalizing the agreement. Upon receiving the remaining documents from Kim Ho, Yi-seok's tone changed as he inquired whether Kim Ho had ever considered joining the Magic Engineering Club. Kim Ho quietly smiled and politely declined. Seeing this, his senior nodded in understanding and encouraged Kim Ho to continue producing designs of such caliber. Yi-seok also offered permission to use surplus materials from the workshop if needed. With a final nod, he left, leaving Kim Ho alone. Kim Ho watched Yi-seok's departing figure with a gentle smile, quietly appreciating the straightforwardness of the exchange. In his mind, he realized the foundation was complete, marking the true beginning of preparations to craft an ultimate weapon. In the medical room, the disciplinary committee was busy at work. A member wearing glasses leaned toward Yunghwa, urging him to reconsider his decision. Yet, Yunghwa remained resolute, questioning why he should comply. The glasses-wearing member continued to emphasize that it was rare for a first-year student to face a wooden giant, let alone oppose a third-year student. Yunghwa countered, insisting that no matter how difficult, the action had already tarnished Emerald's reputation. Jun acknowledged that his own siblings had overstepped boundaries, but he still doubted whether Kim Ho had truly acted alone. Hearing this, a flicker of irritation crossed Yunghwa's face. He sharply questioned whether the disciplinary committee was meddling in Emerald's internal affairs. In response, Jun calmly stated that he was only requesting a fair judgment. After a tense silence, Yunghwa finally asked what they wanted. Jun simply replied, "Give Kim Ho a chance." Then he proposed a 2-month challenge period. During that time, Kim Ho's ranking, especially compared to Kwak Jicheol, would determine the outcome. Jun agreed, acknowledging that 2 months was more than enough. As he walked away, Yunghwa snorted and glanced back. He called out loudly to Song Chunhai. Unknown to anyone, a pink-haired girl from the disciplinary committee, hiding behind a wall, had overheard the entire exchange. Embarrassed, she stepped out and asked if he knew she was there. Jun smirked, revealing that he had already noticed her sneaking into the arena stands. He questioned her about the match outcome, asking whether she believed she could personally defeat Kim Ho. She admitted that she could not say for certain. He pressed further, asking whether she had examined Kim Ho's hands. Flustered, she confirmed that she had carefully checked both of his hands and found no scratches. Jun froze, thinking to himself, if Kim Ho had truly used the Hell Fist, there was no way his hands could have recovered so quickly. Had he underestimated him? Doubts lingered, but he knew there were still many things that needed clarification. Suddenly, he recalled the Kim Ho he had faced before, and a surge of frustration rose within him. In his mind, he thought once again. That arrogant gaze, as if everything were beneath him. It was hard to believe it was not the same person. Turning back to Chunhai, Jun said, "I'm sorry, I'll need you to continue monitoring this." Chunhai clenched her fists and replied, "No need to apologize. I'm doing this because I want to. I will make sure to catch him off guard." It was Monday of the 3rd week. Kim Ho's homeroom teacher addressed the class, explaining that the spirit of cooperation would remain as important as the previous week. However, the goal this time was different. Through the match, they could discover weaknesses in teamwork that had previously gone unnoticed. To address these issues, the academy organized a mentoring program, and students were encouraged to carefully consider the opportunity throughout the week. The teacher concluded the announcement without providing any further details. Hyunwoo turned to Kim Ho and asked whether he had registered for the mentoring program. Kim Ho glanced at the system notification, confirming that his application had been completed under his name. He replied that there was no reason to hesitate. With a serious expression, he explained to Hyunwoo that participants would be paired with a top 3rd-year student or even a former graduate, depending on personal preference. He added that opportunities to learn from such individuals would be very rare. Excited, Hyunwoo immediately agreed and said that he would also register. Looking at his own system notification, he sent a thank you message to Kim Ho in advance. Next, Kim Ho turned to ask Seo Yain about her decision. Still drowsy, she replied that it was troublesome and that she was too sleepy. Kim Ho quietly observed her, thinking that although she had some proficiency in creating gas grenades, there was still much to learn, and being mentored would be crucial for her. He wondered if there was a way to persuade her. Suddenly, Hyunwoo's eyes lit up with excitement as he asked Kim Ho if he wanted to pair up with him for this week's match. Kim Ho lightly smiled and nodded in agreement, saying that cooperating this time would also be very good. At that moment, Seo Yain woke up, rubbing her eyes and asking if she could also pair with him. Hyunwoo smiled awkwardly and suggested that since there were 2 matches this week, each could pair with him in 1 match. Kim Ho thought to himself whether his opinion mattered at all. Seo Yain, still sleepy but easygoing, replied that such an arrangement sounded fine. Hyunwoo, still excited, told Kim Ho that he needed to go practice and told them to go ahead. Kim Ho just nodded lightly and replied concisely, "All right, see you tomorrow." The next day, Hyunwoo approached Kim Ho and apologized for making him wait. Kim Ho simply replied that he had only just arrived a minute ago. Internally, Kim Ho noticed that Hyunwoo seemed completely different. His aura was sharper than the day before. He wondered what had happened to him. Hyunwoo noticed Kim Ho's gaze, smiled gently, and said he was looking forward to the match. Kim Ho observed closely and realized that Hyunwoo's power core had reached rank C much faster than expected. Keeping the atmosphere light, Hyunwoo joked, asking whether the protagonist's match with Seo Yain yesterday had gone smoothly. Kim Ho scratched his head embarrassedly and admitted that they had won, but said nothing more. The scene then shifted to the arena, where Kim Ho stood facing two opponents. A red-haired girl and a boy holding a shield stood before him. Kim Ho glanced at the red-haired girl and recalled the previous match. He remembered that the opponent they had faced yesterday was Hong Yeon Hwa, the rising star of the Ruby Magic Tower. He realized that he had not thought Seo Yain could match someone of that caliber at this time. But the result was even more one-sided than he had feared. At that moment, a notification appeared before him, showing Seo Yain's performance rate dropping from 81% to 78%, and then further down to 74%. Seeing this, he thought to himself that his worst fear had indeed come true. Meanwhile, Seo Yain aimed her gun at them from afar, carefully choosing her position. Seeing this, Kim Ho realized that she had absolutely no defensive capabilities. Without hesitation, Kim Ho dashed straight toward them, gripping his staff tightly. As he approached, he activated his skill, causing a surge of blue energy to gather in his palm. He swung his staff, striking him and sending him flying backward. The red-haired girl watching the scene tensed up, clearly showing her fear. Kim Ho stood firm in front of her, his staff pointed directly at her, ready to confront. Then checking his system panel, Kim Ho reflected on how he had managed to gather everything, even suggesting that Seo Yain join the mentoring program. But despite his efforts, she showed no interest. Turning to Hyunwoo, he mentioned this, causing him to smile awkwardly. He admitted that a lot had happened and that he probably needed a proper scolding to remember. However, when Hyunwoo's voice came out slightly sharp, Kim Ho paused momentarily. At that moment, the protagonist's system flashed with a new notification. A match had been found, and upon seeing it, Hyunwoo's eyes lit up with excitement, eagerly declaring that he would show everyone the results of his training. Without warning, both were immediately transported to a new location. Go Hyunwoo asked what was happening and who their opponents were. This time, the protagonist's gaze focused intently on the group standing across from them. It was Seo Yain and her team. At that moment, another notification appeared, displaying the lineup: Jang Sam with 572 points and Seo Yain with 741 points. Stunned, Go Hyunwoo whispered in disbelief that once again they had to face Seo Yain. Seeing the situation, Kim Ho slightly smiled, thinking that this was the perfect opportunity to make Seo Yain realize the weakness in her defensive abilities. Go Hyunwoo looked at him anxiously, asking if they could win. Kim Ho smiled confidently and asserted that they definitely could. Without hesitation, Kim Ho launched an attack towards Seo Yain, determined to defeat her himself. Right behind him, Go Hyunwoo responded with determination, affirming that he would support him. As the two advanced, Seo Yain immediately used a smoke bomb to cover the entire area. Seeing it, Kim Ho thought to himself that this was exactly what he had predicted. He dismissed the attack as useless and continued advancing without slowing down. Seo Yain said nothing, sweat rolling down her face from the pressure, as she fired bullets at Kim Ho. He calmly dodged each shot with ease. When he finally closed in on her, she hurriedly prepared to fire again. However, before she could pull the trigger, Kim Ho knocked her gun aside. He channeled his skill into the punch, prepared it, and then launched it straight toward her. However, before the punch could reach, he stopped it midair and instead lightly flicked her forehead with his finger. He looked at her attentively and asked whether they should continue the match. Not daring to meet Kim Ho's gaze, Seo Yain quietly admitted defeat. Kim Ho realized that her pride had been severely wounded. Turning to Go Hyunwoo, he recalled what Shin Byung-chul had said earlier, that among the opponents there was still a hidden talent yet to appear. Observing the match, his gaze fixed on the strange, almost unnatural movement of the opponent's right hand. From the beginning, he had noticed it was odd, but only now did he truly understand the reason. Suddenly, Kim Ho shouted for both teams to stop. Everyone froze in confusion, their eyes all turning toward him. Calmly, Kim Ho accused them of hiding their true strength and challenged them to fight seriously. He asserted that he had been giving his all from the start, adding that if they were concerned about the footage being public, they could simply set it to private. To further motivate them, he promised that if they won, the reward would be information about the invisible spirit. The name shocked Jang Sam as if struck by lightning. He whipped around to face Kim Ho in astonishment. Kim Ho realized he had struck the right weakness. Still confused, Jang Sam declared that anyone who valued secrecy so much surely would not want to miss this hidden detail. Smiling confidently, Kim Ho replied that he would only share the information if they won. Jang Sam gripped his sword tightly, ready for another battle. He told Go Hyunwoo that since he wanted to push things this far, he would fight as he wished. At that moment, Go Hyunwoo noticed Jang Sam's gaze had suddenly changed and swore to give his all without hesitation. The two charged at each other again, the battle fiercer than ever. The notification flashed repeatedly as Jang Sam launched a barrage of attacks. Go Hyunwoo 87%, Go Hyunwoo 73%, Go Hyunwoo 68%, despite growing exhaustion. Observing the match, Kim Ho told himself he would end everything with a single decisive strike. As the final attack closed in on Go Hyunwoo, he maintained his composure, calming himself before the confrontation could escalate further. In the blink of an eye, Go Hyunwoo skillfully dodged his opponent's attack and immediately countered with a skill called Rapid Flow. The sudden attack left the opponent stunned, unable to recover before the next strike landed. The violent clash of swords shattered both of them. Kim Ho stepped forward and declared it was enough, signaling the end of the match. He activated his skill, a gentle energy gathering at his fingertip, and told both to take a rest. At that moment, the notification board lit up with the results, declaring Kim Ho and Go Hyunwoo as the winners, while Seo Yane and Jang Sam were the losers. Kim Ho glanced at his friend, thinking that although the system marked it as a victory, it actually felt more like a defeat. The result had been decided the moment Jang Sam failed to block the attack and revealed his true abilities. He admitted that, at least for now, his opponent still had some way to go before reaching a promising rank. Not long after, Jang Sam regained consciousness, and upon seeing the results, quietly acknowledged his defeat. Kim Ho accepted this without further explanation. Without looking at him, Jang Sam admitted that although the outcome was somewhat regrettable, it had still been a good match. Kim Ho thought reassuringly that Go Hyunwoo would feel the same way. Before leaving, Jang Sam adjusted his shoulders slightly and asked Kim Ho whether his moves were too predictable. Kim Ho smiled and explained that they were indeed a bit exposed, pointing out that his sword handling looked awkward and too ordinary, making his moves easy to anticipate. Surprised, Jang Sam asked if his excessive ordinariness really made him predictable. Kim Ho explained by telling him to think about the Satlong Academy, where the strongest from around the world gather. In such a fiercely competitive environment, anything ordinary stands out more than usual. Jang Sam pondered for a moment, then nodded in agreement that in that context, ordinariness would indeed attract attention. Afterwards, he bowed respectfully to Kim Ho, expressing gratitude for the advice, and asked about another skill, Ghost Step. Kim Ho reminded him that questions like that should only be asked after winning. Meanwhile, Go Hyunwoo remained unconscious on the ground, and Jang Sam, after calming down, promised to challenge Kim Ho next time. Kim Ho did not hesitate and agreed to face him whenever he was ready. Then Kim Ho and Go Hyunwoo were transported back to the arena. Still embarrassed about his performance, Go Hyunwoo admitted his shame and asked Kim Ho for his thoughts on the match. Kim Ho gently reassured him, explaining that he had skillfully created openings with probing attacks and ended the battle neatly with a decisive finishing move. Go Hyunwoo glanced at the broken sword worriedly, admitting that he could not keep avoiding the issue forever. Sensing his worry, Kim Ho joked that the solution was simple, just get a better sword. Embarrassed, Go Hyunwoo thought to himself that his financial situation was hardly enough to afford such a luxury. Without hesitation, the protagonist pulled a book from his inventory and handed it to Go Hyunwoo. He explained that weapons did not always have to be bought with money, then asked how many points Go Hyunwoo had accumulated. Go Hyunwoo quickly checked and said he had around 5,000 points. Kim Ho reassured him that this was more than enough and suggested he buy both an E-rank weapon and a skill. Along with a D-rank longsword, Go Hyunwoo followed the suggestion and purchased the items. The system immediately confirmed the transaction, listing both swords and the additional crafting materials called thermal catalysts. He used the remaining points to buy them as well. Kim Ho then told him to hand over the catalysts. When Go Hyunwoo asked what they were for, Kim Ho explained that they were crafting materials and promised to help him forge something useful. He encouraged Go Hyunwoo to focus on recovery and reassured him that they would work on it together. Grateful, Go Hyunwoo smiled gently and thanked Kim Ho. That night, Kim Ho headed to workshop number 4, thinking both about the week's matches being over and that it was time to prepare materials to craft an item to support Go Hyunwoo. Upon entering, he greeted and noticed his friend busy working on something. His friend only glanced briefly and immediately returned to his task, clearly unconcerned with Kim Ho's presence. Kim Ho recalled that Bong Yi-seok had once scolded him for interfering in unrelated matters and guessed that he did not like being disturbed. Nevertheless, Kim Ho approached, silently apologizing in his heart as he attempted to replicate a skill he had previously observed. The system immediately recorded the action, confirming that he had successfully copied another skill, filling the remaining slots. Thinking ahead, Kim Ho realized that with this new skill, he no longer needed any additional skills and decided it was time to give it up. He smiled as he observed the discarded devices scattered across the room, thinking this was an ideal place to collect fairly good materials. These items had been failed projects, discarded for various reasons, but their crafted components remained intact. He considered that dismantling them was often much more difficult than acquiring new materials. But this time he thought it might become an advantage for him. He began dismantling the devices, and before long, his friend noticed and asked what he was doing. Without looking up, Kim Ho explained that he was trying to extract materials from them. Sweating with concern, his friend timidly asked if he could observe, and Kim Ho smiled and agreed immediately without hesitation. Kim Ho handed his friend a glass vial filled with the materials, leaving him amazed. His friend marveled at how clean the materials looked, almost brand new despite being dismantled. Seeing this as a good opportunity, Kim Ho asked if his friend was interested in trading some of the materials. His friend's eyes lit up with excitement, eagerly asking Kim Ho what he needed. Kim Ho listed a few essential components. His friend hesitated, worried that Bong Yi-seok might scold him again for being involved in such exchanges. Kim Ho reassured him that exchanging a few materials would not be a problem, and if necessary, he would take responsibility himself. Now, if he was still worried, he could ask for permission directly. Sighing with relief but still concerned, the boy suggested sending a message to request approval. Even though the message had been seen with no reply, he took the silence as consent. However, before he could think it through, Bong Yi-seok suddenly appeared at the door, drenched in sweat. His friend froze in shock, unable to comprehend what was happening. Ignoring the commotion, Bong Yi-seok walked straight up to Kim Ho. Without beating around the bush, he immediately asked if Kim Ho had disassembled the device himself. While waiting for an answer, he quickly presented another set of items, explaining that although it was a failed project, it had consumed a massive amount of materials. Pointing at the sturdy-looking device, he emphasized his point. Bong Yi-seok challenged Kim Ho, asking if he could disassemble it. The scene ended with Kim Ho facing the challenge. Observing the device, he realized the task would take quite some time. Bong Yi-seok nodded in acknowledgement and assured Kim Ho that he would be properly compensated for his efforts. Kim Ho smiled and said that since he also needed the materials, he would accept the reward in items rather than money. Bong Yi-seok agreed, promising to prepare everything Kim Ho needed as soon as he received the list. He reassured him that it was not urgent, encouraging him to take his time and asked him to send the request via message. Kim Ho responded respectfully. Meanwhile, his friend working nearby pointed at himself and asked for a favor. Kim Ho looked at him and asked what it was. His friend explained that something needed to be disassembled elsewhere. Kim Ho paid no mind and agreed to help. Grateful, his friend promised to assist in finding any materials Kim Ho needed. The next morning, Kim Ho entered the classroom, surprised at how quickly morning had arrived. He thought about completing tasks after class since there was still plenty of time. He also considered taking a short nap before the class started. Seeing Seo Yain already in the room, he wondered why she had arrived so early, recalling that she had disappeared without a word yesterday. He calmly approached and asked why she had come so early, whether she had skipped breakfast, and if she wanted something to eat. She did not answer, only showing her irritation. Observing her reaction, Kim Ho realized that she still harbored resentment. Trying to ease the atmosphere, Kim Ho explained that yesterday's match had been one-sided and that his intention was only to point out her weaknesses. He pointed out that her fighting style weakened noticeably whenever his position was revealed, and since her magic bullets had become too predictable, he suggested that this time she consider investing in a support skill. This immediately caught her attention, and she asked whether he would personally provide special training. Kim Ho gently placed a piece of bread on the table and explained that although he wanted to help, she would benefit more by learning this from another expert in the field. Despite the inconvenience, Kim Ho still advised her to register for the mentoring program. After a brief hesitation, she nodded in agreement to follow his advice. Just then, Go Hyunwoo suddenly appeared and commented on her decision to register. Kim Ho supported her choice and then turned to ask Go Hyunwoo if he thought it was all right. Go Hyunwoo expressed his gratitude, saying that thanks to him his physical condition was now perfect. However, he admitted that even though his body was fine, he was still concerned about the weapon he had purchased yesterday and planned to test it in the upcoming matches. Kim Ho smiled as he noticed what Go Hyunwoo was holding and encouraged him to use the weapon. Surprised by the item Kim Ho gave him, Go Hyunwoo asked in astonishment. Uncertain if it was just an ordinary clip, Kim Ho calmly explained that although it looked ordinary, it was actually a protective item that could maintain the weapon's durability by automatically repairing it when necessary. Detailed information about the item appeared on the screen, confirming that it was a sturdy clip capable of protecting the weapon's condition and repairing it when needed. Kim Ho then attached the clip to Go Hyunwoo's outfit and suggested he try it along with the new weapon he had obtained from the previous match. Feeling reassured, Go Hyunwoo expressed his gratitude and promised to make good use of the item. Afterwards, during the training matches, a white-haired girl appeared with Go Hyunwoo's team. A notification appeared detailing the match, showing that his team would face Jeong Suji Nari, along with others, all at maximum physical condition. As the teams prepared to face off, a tense atmosphere enveloped the area. Go Hyunwoo recognized Park Nari as a promising member of the Natural Club. He recalled the senior's warning about the spirit beast linked to her and remained cautious. The match began when Nari, while petting her creature, signaled it to get ready. The small cat on her shoulder jumped down and immediately transformed into a gigantic tiger, its entire body enveloped in swirling blue energy. Instantly, the beast roared and charged fiercely toward Go Hyunwoo's team. Reacting swiftly, Go Hyunwoo raised his sword to block the tiger's fierce attack and signaled his teammates to strike. Han Seol immediately joined the battle. She unleashed a powerful strike, hitting the tiger and causing the ground beneath its massive body to tremble. However, Han Seol was shocked to realize that the attack barely harmed the creature, only slightly diminishing its strength. Panic set in as she grasped how resilient the tiger truly was. The tiger counterattacked with a devastating blow at the white-haired girl, sending her flying into the air. While Go Hyunwoo called out to her, his voice filled with worry. The beast immediately redirected its attack toward Go Hyunwoo, breaking his sword and hurling him backward. Struggling to maintain balance before hitting the ground, he considered the limitations of using an E-rank weapon against such a powerful enemy. Determined not to give up, he summoned another sword, keeping his eyes on the tiger. Hyunwoo admitted that this battle would be very difficult to win. Han Seol agreed and suggested trying a different approach. Meanwhile, the tiger had fully recovered, confirmed by the system as its status returned to maximum. Go Hyunwoo quickly realized that the opposing team's strategy relied on placing the spirit beast in front to continuously restore its energy. He also noticed that the two girls supporting the spirit beast had left the mage completely unguarded, relying entirely on the beast's strength. Recognizing the pattern, Go Hyunwoo pointed at his teammate and urged her to target the tiger's core, understanding that this was the best opportunity to turn the tide of the battle. Both Go Hyunwoo and Han Seol immediately rushed toward the two girls standing opposite, ready to strike. Nari held a crystal tightly in her hand, having anticipated this attack, and immediately activated a defensive skill. A row of trees suddenly appeared around her and her teammates, shielding them from the incoming attacks. Seeing the sudden tree barrier, both Go Hyunwoo and Han Seol froze momentarily. Without hesitation, Han Seol activated her skill, launching a powerful ice-infused attack, while Go Hyunwoo used his skill to release a concentrated force. Go Hyunwoo assessed the situation, realizing that their attacks would not easily break through the barrier. He decided that the next strike must surpass the limits of the protection and end the match with a single decisive move. However, before he could act, the tiger, which had been hiding behind, suddenly appeared and attacked, quickly taking down Han Seol. Stunned by the sudden appearance of the tiger, Go Hyunwoo froze for a moment. The scene then shifted to the arena, where the scoreboard confirmed the results. Go Hyunwoo and Han Seol's team had lost, while Park Nari's team emerged victorious. The next day, Go Hyunwoo expressed regret over the humiliating scene from the day before. Kim Ho reassured him that his efforts were commendable, especially considering the opponent's exceptional talent. Go Hyunwoo then asked what Kim Ho would have done in that situation. Kim Ho explained that beyond strategy or technique, the decisive factor was the large gap in equipment. He further explained that Park Nari, backed by the Natural Club, could use a variety of skills and had recently obtained a powerful treasure through a transaction, equipping her with superior items from head to toe. Hearing this, Go Hyunwoo broke into a sweat in disbelief, realizing that defeat was inevitable. The opponent's strength relied not only on skill but also on careful preparation. Kim Ho suggested that it might be time to consider alternative approaches. He explained that matching Park Nari's equipment level was impossible, but countermeasures could still be sought. This gave Go Hyunwoo a glimmer of hope, and he asked if there really was a way. Kim Ho confidently mentioned a rare debuff item, the Demon Sword, which was indispensable for top swordsmen. Hearing this for the first time, Go Hyunwoo was surprised and admitted that this was something new he had learned from Kim Ho. Kim Ho then pointed to the clip attached to Go Hyunwoo's outfit, emphasizing that the top priority was ensuring the weapon's durability. He advised focusing on collecting treasures that enhance weapon durability, especially for B-rank weapons and above. Go Hyunwoo doubted his ability to obtain these items, knowing they would not be easy to collect. However, Kim Ho smiled and explained that although it was still early, there was a way to obtain these items as drops from the underground dungeons of the Dungeon Association. Go Hyunwoo immediately expressed concern, pointing out that it was currently double season, making such trips impossible. Kim Ho calmly explained that it did not matter since next week they would also be unable to access the underground dungeons. When Go Hyunwoo asked why, Kim Ho explained that underground dungeons involved real combat, unlike the surface. Newly enrolled freshmen would not be sent into deadly battles. Still worried, Go Hyunwoo asked if that meant there was absolutely no way. Kim Ho reassured him that, although officially impossible, there was still another option. Go Hyunwoo asked Kim Ho what he meant by officially. Kim Ho confidently suggested that they could sneak in using Aaron's service to access the dungeons secretly. Hearing this, Go Hyunwoo realized that Kim Ho was referring to Shin Byung-chul. Go Hyunwoo confirmed the plan without hesitation. Kim Ho confidently reassured him that Shin Byung-chul would arrive soon. Before long, Shin Byung-chul appeared before them, full of excitement and eager to help. Kim Ho explained that he planned to enter a dungeon and that Monday evening would be the ideal time. Shin Byung-chul immediately asked for the dungeon number, and Kim Ho did not hesitate to reveal it was 388. Pulling out a notebook, Shin Byung-chul confirmed that it was a D-rank dungeon named Feathered Snake Altar. This dungeon was designed for 4 people, and he asked who would participate. The protagonist pointed at Go Hyunwoo, signaling that only the 2 of them would take part. Though worried that things might go wrong, he might have to take responsibility. Shin Byung-chul hesitated. However, Kim Ho reassured him that in the worst-case scenario, they could retreat safely from the dungeon. Go Hyunwoo supported the decision, expressing his commitment to go with Kim Ho. Shin Byung-chul reluctantly agreed and began preparing to enter the dungeon on Monday evening. Kim Ho then asked what the compensation for this request would be. Shin Byung-chul smiled and joked that between them, compensation was unnecessary since he still owed Kim Ho from a previous incident. He considered the matter settled and promised to give full support, humorously admitting that he had only ever been in a dungeon once before. Kim Ho realized that Shin Byung-chul was inexperienced in dungeon exploration, so he reassured him not to perform the task halfway. Shin Byung-chul, though a bit embarrassed, still swore to give his all. Taking it a step further, Kim Ho suggested adding another dungeon to their mission for experience. Dungeon 104, a B-rank dungeon named Black Snake with treacherous deep floors. Shin Byung-chul immediately objected, saying it was beyond his ability, but Kim Ho encouraged him to at least consult the headmaster. After some thought, Shin Byung-chul agreed that it was not entirely impossible and promised to ask for approval on the matter. He then confirmed the plan and left, arranging to meet them on Monday evening. After he left, Kim Ho turned to Go Hyunwoo and suggested that they finalize their plan. Go Hyunwoo eagerly agreed and asked what needed to be done. Kim Ho explained that first they would enter the designated D-rank dungeon, Feathered Snake Altar, where Go Hyunwoo would collect his weapon while Kim Ho completed his own objectives. He further explained that the following days would be used for preparation, including negotiating with the thieves, club to access deeper dungeon levels and securing the necessary items. He warned that even the smallest mistake in such a dungeon could lead to death. Go Hyunwoo reassured Kim Ho that he was ready. Kim Ho emphasized that Go Hyunwoo's role was extremely important, not only in terms of skill but also coordination, and that he needed knowledge of the dungeon equivalent to his own. When Go Hyunwoo saw the guidebook spread out before him, he was so stunned he could barely speak. Kim Ho smiled and explained that these were detailed guides for both of them, instructing Go Hyunwoo to memorize every word without omitting anything. The scene shifted to workshop number 1, where Kim Ho was busy with a task when Yi Seok appeared. Yi Seok asked about the materials Kim Ho was gathering, specifically the floating stone extract, mana engine, and weather chip, and whether they had been acquired. Kim Ho expressed his gratitude, explaining that thanks to Yi Seok's help, he had been able to collect these rare materials without difficulty and showed his appreciation. Yi Seok then glanced at the assembled materials and noticed that Kim Ho was wrapping everything up. He asked if he could take a closer look, and Kim Ho agreed, telling him to wait a moment while he finished. Kim Ho completed his work with visible excitement and announced that everything was done. Yi Seok, observing the staff, expressed curiosity about what Kim Ho was crafting. He said that based on its shape, it looked like the head of a staff or scepter, and he asked if the main body had been acquired. Kim Ho smiled and said that he had not yet found anything suitable, intending to search gradually until he found the perfect piece. In his mind, he wondered whether he should try searching in the lower levels of the dungeon area. Yi Seok then remarked that now that the rainy season had passed, Kim Ho probably would not come to the workshop as frequently. Kim Ho nodded in thanks and expressed his gratitude, saying that he would still visit occasionally. The scene then shifted to Class 1-3, where the teacher explained the topic of the week's strategy mission. A map titled Stone Area appeared on the board, along with rules stating that this dungeon was a two-person mode with random pairings. The teacher continued to explain that anyone could earn high points by defeating all the monsters. Since there was no time limit, students needed to remain alert to hidden enemies. He emphasized that both terrain and teammates would be randomly shuffled, and students would have to compete in a new environment with unfamiliar classmates. Closing the book, the teacher encouraged students to cooperate with each other and gradually complete the mission before the class ended. Afterwards, Go Hyunwoo turned to Kim Ho and remarked that it seemed they would not be able to pair up for this week's mission. Kim Ho responded with a gentle smile, agreeing that everyone would have to go solo. At that moment, Seo Yain, who had just woken up, suggested postponing the Mana Bullet lecture for this week, emphasizing that the upcoming guidance week could allow learning new skills. She then suggested focusing on strengthening basic skills. Meanwhile, Go Hyunwoo nodded in agreement, saying it made sense, while Seo Yain simply nodded silently. Kim Ho, with a playful expression, advised them to try the training mode before entering the main mission. However, inwardly, he thought that the training mode was useless for him, just a waste of time. Transitioning through the teleport gate, Kim Ho looked straight ahead, telling himself that he would dive into the main mission without hesitation. He then turned his attention to the system notification. He quietly hoped to be paired with a capable teammate. Whoever it was, his goal remained to achieve a perfect score of 100%. He thought about the ideal teammate and realized that the person whose skills he could copy would be the best choice. The system displayed the protagonist's current skill slots, showing he already had 2 skills, Magi Tech and Silent Step. He realized that he would not use Magi Tech in the near future, so he considered replacing that slot with a more combat-oriented skill. At that moment, he noticed his teammate had just appeared. He then directed his attention to the teleport gate. He felt confused, wondering what was happening. A red-haired girl appeared from the teleport gate. Recognizing her, he was both surprised and slightly pleased, realizing that she was someone he had met before. Hong Yeonhwa, the red-haired girl, was equally stunned, reacting strongly as she immediately recognized Kim Ho and felt irritated to meet him again. Kim Ho wondered why she reacted so intensely. Meanwhile, in Yeonhwa's mind, previous matches between them flashed. From ranking exams to PvP battles where she had always been the winner, he considered it understandable that she might feel apprehensive. Kim Ho smiled to himself, telling himself that his main goal was to complete the mission efficiently. He realized that creating a slightly tense atmosphere would benefit him, so he decided to maintain that tension. He looked at her confidently, impatient because she had not made a move, and urged her to proceed without further hesitation. Yeonhwa, her eyes teary and expression worried, reluctantly agreed to follow him. As they ran together, Yeonhwa began to regret her decision. She remained silent, telling herself that she should have taken a day off and tried again the next day, instead of rushing to complete the mission just to save face. After a while, she glanced at Kim Ho ahead and muttered in frustration. She had never wanted a teammate like him and wondered why she was stuck with him like this. She also wondered where they were going, as the surrounding area looked strange and deserted. She did not realize that Kim Ho was easily defeating each monster without drawing attention. She only glanced at the system notification, wondering why everything seemed too easy. She found it odd that there should be monsters in every corner, yet the area remained empty. Seeing a goblin collapse nearby, she panicked, thinking there was still a monster left, and called out to Kim Ho for help. However, he ignored her plea, which made her even more frustrated. She gritted her teeth in annoyance, wondering why he did not respond to her call. She felt as if she were stuck cleaning up all the trouble by herself. In her frustration, she activated her skill, Combustion, and attacked a monster, secretly thinking that the protagonist's combat skills were impressive. Despite her annoyance, she hoped they would cooperate, and she became even more frustrated that he refused to coordinate. Although unspoken, the thought lingered in her mind. Meanwhile, Kim Ho ran ahead of her, silently scolding and wondering if she really thought she could complete the mission alone. He urged her not to fall behind and to keep pace with him. Yeonhwa hesitated slightly but then reluctantly obeyed, responding awkwardly as if still unsure, yet ready to cooperate. Looking at Kim Ho, she felt a sense of doubt rising in her heart. She told herself that something had been off throughout the entire mission. He did not hesitate or stop even once. He charged forward without any further thought, as if he had completed this very mission hundreds of times before. Suddenly, Kim Ho abruptly stopped and told her to wait a moment. He pointed toward a tunnel in the distance, wondering if it might be a den. Curious, he suggested they move closer to check. Checking the entrance, Yeonhwa concluded that it was probably a goblin den, as it was too small and narrow for a person to pass through. Confident in his approach, Kim Ho told her to go ahead and check. Startled, she hesitated and asked if she really had to enter. Kim Ho glanced at her with a threatening look, implying that she could handle it, and urged her to step forward. Feeling pressured, she nervously agreed and, though reluctant, decided to crawl into the hole. Watching her enter the den, Kim Ho was puzzled. He had not expected her to go inside. He only intended for her to cast a fire spell from outside. As she entered, a stream of golden light suddenly shot out from the tunnel. Kim Ho noticed it and wondered what the light could be. Before anyone could react, the tunnel exploded. Unfazed, Kim Ho remarked that such fire explosions were common in a dungeon like Ruby Tower. When the dust settled, Yeonhwa crawled out of the den, rubbing her face in frustration. She complained about the challenge she had just endured, wondering why she had to suffer like that. However, she admitted that exploring dungeons often led to chaotic situations like this. Standing up, she expressed relief that they had found the goblin den in time, and that they had managed to eliminate the goblins before they had a chance to escape. At that moment, the system notification announced that only one monster remained. Kim Ho noted this and said that they only needed to defeat the final boss to complete the mission. However, before they could react, a dangerous monster suddenly appeared from behind. Kim Ho quickly grabbed Yeonhwa and warned her not to lose focus in the dungeon. Feeling flustered, she apologized and blamed the explosion for possibly drawing the attention of the surrounding monsters. The giant boss now stood before them. Kim Ho explained that this was surely the dungeon boss and reassured her that since they had to fight it anyway, it was a good opportunity. He advised her to stay alert, promising that the battle would be manageable if they attacked together. Looking at her, he thought to himself that she was still somewhat flustered and partially blaming herself for it. He was determined to help her regain her confidence. With that thought, he surprised her by telling her to face the boss on her own. Yeonhwa froze at this unexpected challenge, unsure how she could handle such a powerful opponent alone. However, Kim Ho confidently urged her, asserting that she could manage it and encouraged her not to step back. Buoyed by his words, she bravely stepped forward and accepted the challenge, saying she would give it a try. In his heart, Kim Ho smiled, eager to see her true potential and silently cheering her on to prove her abilities. The girl then positioned herself for an attack, concentrating magical energy at the tip of her staff. Kim Ho watched carefully, thinking that this was the moment for her to show her real strength. She activated her skill, Overheat, and launched her attack. The monster, instantly angered by the sudden strike, charged toward her in fury. Seeing the monster's reaction, Yeonhwa panicked, surprised by its speed of retaliation. She wondered how it could move so fast. As the monster raised its weapon to strike, she felt desperate, determined not to lose. Fueled by determination, she leaped into the air. Activating her next skill, Flame Orb, she launched an attack directly at the monster. Seeing the attack hit the monster perfectly, she felt a rush of excitement and satisfaction, believing that she had struck it dead on. But to her dismay, the monster barely flinched. It reappeared from the explosion, seemingly unharmed and ready to attack. Seeing the monster unscathed, Yeonhwa thought that perhaps this dungeon had a half-damage reduction property, wondering what the designer had been thinking. Immediately, the monster, with red eyes, swung its axe toward Yeonhwa. Unfazed, Yeonhwa with determined eyes charged at the monster, resolved to finish it before the overheat effect ended. But unexpectedly, the monster swung another axe at Yeonhwa, catching her off guard. Unsure how to block, she closed her eyes and braced herself, at which point Kim Ho instantly rushed forward to cast a protective spell for her. With a satisfied look, Kim Ho reassured Yeonhwa with the same words as before, "I told you not to be careless." Escaping narrowly, Yeonhwa, sweating, softly thanked Kim Ho. Seeing this, Kim Ho turned back and said, "Don't do that, use that instead." Yeonhwa hesitated, thinking if it was that item then. Yeonhwa suddenly recalled the past when facing Kim Ho. Her expression showed some panic at the memory she did not want to recall. Immediately, she said that the skill was strong but had too limited a range. Seeing this, Kim Ho replied, "I'll hold him tightly and you just focus on the power." Without delay, Kim Ho dashed toward the monster despite Yeonhwa calling out from behind. Instantly, he cast his wind technique to control the monster. From behind, Yeonhwa grasped the situation and immediately cast Flame Pillar, determined to stop thinking and just focus on completing her role. Noticing something unusual, the monster became alert. Kim Ho also felt slightly worried and watched carefully. Yeonhwa wondered, why is Kim Ho again? Seeing the monster maneuver out of the spell, Yeonhwa shouted, "It has recognized the magic formation." Kim Ho reassured her, "Don't worry, just keep proceeding." With a satisfied expression, he continued casting magic toward the monster. As if playing with a toy, the monster immediately fell and could not resist. The monster's fallen position lay in the middle of Yeonhwa's magic formation. Immediately, Yeonhwa announced that everything was ready and asked Kim Ho to exit the magic formation. Hearing this, although Kim Ho had natural resistance and didn't need to avoid it, he now only needed to follow instructions. He quickly stepped out of the magic formation's range. Moving well behind Yeonhwa, Kim Ho said, "All right, is this okay?" Yeonhwa replied, "Good, that's enough." She gritted her teeth with determination, resolved to finish with one strike this time. Immediately, power surged at the tip of her staff. The flame pillar was instantly unleashed. The monster was burned away completely. Its eyes opened wide in shock, unable to understand why it had died. Watching it all, Kim Ho was satisfied and remarked, "Indeed, the power of the flame pillar created a massive whirlwind of fire." The system displayed that 0 monsters remained. Completion at 100% equals 800 points. Dungeon bonus 200 points. Total 1000 points, with a multiplier of 0.8 equaling 800 points. Seeing this, Yeonhwa wiped sweat from her brow and sighed, "So it's over." Kim Ho, standing behind, looked at Yeonhwa and thought to himself that it had ended quickly. Facing the boss, she had fought quite well, even if it had been a bit forced. Suddenly, Yeonhwa spoke up, catching Kim Ho's attention. She had something she wanted to ask Kim Ho. Seeing this, he responded, "What is it? Why are you hesitating?" She recalled the moment she crawled into the golem line. Then the scene of her falling into Kim Ho's arms. Embarrassed, she asked if the replay could be set to private. Hearing this, Kim Ho asked, "You want me to set the replay to private?" Yeonhwa added, "I'll compensate you for the points lost, so." Immediately, Yeonhwa handed something to Kim Ho, something more valuable than the replay. Holding the ruby-edged item in his hand, Kim Ho thought deeply, "What, the ruby is just exchanged for a private replay? If it were a reasonable reward, it would be acceptable, but this is a bit too much." Seeing Kim Ho looking displeased, Yeonhwa angrily scolded, "What's with that expression? Isn't this still not enough?" She immediately opened her inventory and handed over a larger ruby as well. Seeing Yeonhwa misunderstand, Kim Ho waved his hand to stop her. "No need, this is enough." Kim Ho smiled satisfactorily and said to Yeonhwa, "You've worked hard, Yeonhwa." Hearing this, Yeonhwa froze, thinking, why did he suddenly call my name? I did everything myself from the start anyway. Immediately afterward, Yeonhwa went to the teleport gate and stammered, You've worked hard too." Witnessing this, Kim Ho broke into a sweat, thinking to himself that there was no need to be so shy. Nevertheless, Kim Ho still felt that Yeonhwa's moves were better than he had expected. The rumor that she could rival promising talents was not wrong. He opened the system notification, and what surprised him most was the melee data, thanks to which he could choose a skill to copy. Kim Ho recalled not knowing which skill Yeonhwa had absorbed via overheat, but he was certain that this power also came with extraordinary physical enhancement. He looked at the ruby and silently wondered what to do with this one. Tonight, he would have to go down to the dungeon's lower floor. This needed to be brought to the Ruby Tower to see. The scene shifted to the dungeon's lower floor. Kim Ho stepped out from the teleport gate, and it seemed that Hyunwoo and Byingchul had not arrived yet while he checked the mission rewards. The system notification displayed the Week 4 submission, Dungeon Completion Objective, 100% completion, Reward, attribute copy, slot +1. Reading the notification, Kim Ho felt delighted. Oh, finally I can copy a new attribute. If I find a useful attribute in the dungeon's lower floors, that would be perfect. Immediately afterward, a voice spoke up, catching Kim Ho's attention. If you go first, you should announce it. So Kim, you're already here. It turned out to be none other than Hyunwoo and Byung-chul. Byung-chul said, I won't let you down, Kim. Byung-chul added, oh right, I have something to give you too from before. Immediately, Byung-chul handed over a tie clip with an anonymity effect and requested the two to wear it. The effect of this item was to make the wearer's face look completely ordinary and unremarkable, so even if they met seniors, no one would notice. Seeing this useful item, Kim Ho exclaimed, oh, the face really does become blank. Hyunwoo, witnessing this, had to comment, if we just pass by, our identities won't be revealed. Byung-chul, hearing the two speak, broke into a sweat, muttering to himself, haha, something feels off about this. Immediately afterward, Kim Ho spoke, alright, let's go everyone down below. Then they immediately went down. With the dungeon's narrow, winding floors, the three chatted while walking. Still far? Someone asked, and another reassured them that they were almost there. Looking down at the dungeon's lower floors, Hyunwoo couldn't help exclaiming, I'd heard the dungeon was big, but I didn't expect it to be like this. We're only at level D and it's already taken so long, so this is what they call the deep floors. Hearing this, Kim Ho responded, actually there are instant teleportation devices, but since we sneaked in, we can't use them. Kim Ho then turned to Byung-chul and added, in fact, if the guide is skilled enough, even that could be hacked. Byung-chul, feeling he was being referred to, scratched his head awkwardly and said, haha, but we're almost there. Immediately afterward, the three arrived at their destination. Dungeon number 388. The three stood before the teleport gate of the feathered snake altar, contemplating. Hyunwoo spoke, luckily we weren't discovered and have arrived safely. Kim Ho then said to everyone has memorized the strategy books, so let's get started. Immediately afterward, a loud voice rang out, catching the three's attention. Finally, what are you all doing? From behind, two people approached, freezing the three in place. The green-haired girl spoke, what kind of strange skill is that? The boy with her replied, if not for that, we would have cleared it already. Suddenly he noticed Kim Ho's group. Immediately afterward he turned and grumbled, what are they doing here, raiding the dungeon too? Kim Ho thought to himself, the distribution of the teams is clearly effective. After the two strangers left, Hyunwoo dared to speak first, before we encounter others, we better move in quickly. Byung-chul responded, wait a moment. Byung-chul held an item in his hand and directed him to speak. I still need to handle the final defense system. He placed the cube on the ground and coldly said, all the defensive devices around here are now deactivated, so there's nothing to worry about for the time being. Byung-chul added, but anyway, I'll still keep watch from outside in case of surprises. Kim Ho replied, yeah, I'll finish quickly, just wait a moment. Immediately afterward, Kim Ho and Hyunwoo entered the dungeon. Kim Ho urged, there's no time to hesitate, act quickly. He pointed to the temple and said to Hyunwoo, see that? That's the focus of this dungeon, the feathered snake altar, which you will handle. He added, there are many man tribe guarding the area, so be careful. Just then, a figure appeared in the distance. His eyes were red as blood, holding a weapon, advancing toward Kim Ho's group. Instantly, a spear flew rapidly toward Kim Ho. Both Hyunwoo and Kim Ho easily dodged the thrust. His eyes turned cold as he said, I just caught a glimpse and here they appear, the man tribe. Immediately afterward, three fierce-looking man tribe pointed at Kim Ho's group and shouted, capture the offerings alive. Instantly, Kim Ho's group was surrounded. Seeing them, Kim Ho said, I said capture them alive, so why throw spears? Without hesitation, the man tribe charged toward Kim Ho to fight. Hyunwoo beside him said, Kim Ho, just follow the plan. Kim Ho coldly replied, yeah, let's begin. Instantly, Kim Ho's hand cast magic. A strong wind forcefully pushed back the man tribe. Hyunwoo, with determined eyes, drew his sword and charged. In moments, a series of slashes struck the man tribe, killing them swiftly, leaving them bewildered. Afterwards, Kim Ho moved on, leaving Hyunwoo with the man tribe, not forgetting to wish Kim Ho good luck. Hyunwoo stood firm among the aggressive man tribe. Immediately afterward, Hyunwoo shouted clearly, your opponent is me, this sword will end you all. On his side, after departing, Kim Ho thought to himself, from now on, everyone will act according to the plan. Hyunwoo will proceed straight to the altar while he will go through the jungle, not following the main path. The usual conditions to clear the feathered snake altar are to strike through the man tribe and reach the final altar where the feathered snake priest boss appears. Only by stopping the ritual and simultaneously defeating the priest and the man tribe can the dungeon be cleared. Following the main path, completion of the dungeon would also not be a problem. But there will be no hidden fragments in this dungeon. Immediately afterward, Kim Ho reached the area where the Man tribe lived. He had to explore areas overlooked by others to dig up something, just as he was doing now. Seeing the Man tribes, they became alert, noticing that few remained in the camp as most had already been concentrated toward the altar, and even with bows, they were no match for Hyunwoo. Instantly, Kim Ho dashed toward the Man tribe and coldly said, "Haha, greetings to you all," while the Man tribe stood bewildered, realizing the offering had come to them on its own, a truly robust offering. Capture him alive! Seeing this, Kim Ho wiped sweat from his brow and thought, don't they have anything else to say besides that? Immediately, he began casting his magic, thinking the small fry weren't even worth noticing. While casting, Kim Ho shouted, threatening them to quickly call their chief out here. Instantly, two-man tribe returned to their lord, and Kim Ho thought to himself, everything is still going according to plan. Moving deeper inside, Kim Ho noticed an unusually large tent, wondering if it was the chief's private tent. Then a flash of light appeared inside the tent. Immediately, a beam of golden light shot out, and Kim Ho quickly dodged to the side. The chief lifted the curtain and stepped out, his voice cold. It's rare to see someone with such strong aura. This person will be an excellent offering. In one hand, he held a staff, and in the other, a refined orb of light, threatening that if they obeyed, he would shorten the person's painful moment. The system notification appeared, Inferno Fist, Hell Fist, Overheat. Kim Ho was not inferior and immediately cast his Inferno magic, thinking to himself, everyone keeps talking about offerings, but isn't it time to move on? Facing the chief, Kim Ho thought, to obtain the hidden fragment, I must keep him here. That's why I searched the entire forest to reach this camp. Ignoring the golden light shot by the chief, Kim Ho charged forward with determination to defeat him, everything unfolding according to his plan, keeping him occupied until Hyunwoo found the hidden fragment. Dodging to the side, Kim Ho noted that this golden attack was not elemental, so even a single hit could be fatal. Immediately afterward, he closed the distance to the chief, analyzing that using overheat to absorb the Inferno Fist's flames while his body was pushed to its extreme limit would be effective. Kim Ho easily continued dodging the chief's attacks. He threw a punch toward the chief, shattering part of the protective barrier around him. Then he followed up with another punch, but this time the chief had to block with both hands. Unable to withstand Kim Ho's strength, the chief flew dozens of meters back after taking the full force of the punch. Looking at his hand, Kim Ho marveled, overheat combined with Inferno Fist truly has overwhelming power. Even a D-rank barrier was easily destroyed. As the dust cleared, the chief's figure appeared unscathed, causing Kim Ho to worry a little. Indeed, a boss of this level seemed to take little damage. Immediately, he narrowed his eyes confidently and said, you should pay attention to your defense or you'll leave an opening. Instantly, a beam of light streaked past Kim Ho's face. The chief with angry eyes growled, you shall not die easily. Hearing this, Kim Ho still teased him, oh wow scary, you look fierce. Kim Ho dodged to the side and immediately charged toward him, thinking, as long as I dodge just enough during combat, he will often retreat midway. Looking at the chief's angry face, Kim Ho thought, should I prevent mishaps, just provoke his anger. He did not attack directly but continued to evade the chief's strikes, making him angrier, which was more effective, though it increased the difficulty of dodging. Looking toward the altar, Kim Ho thought to himself, come on, do well Hyunwoo, the rest depends on you. Returning to Hyunwoo, Kim Ho took a step, his foot smeared with syrup as he gradually moved forward. Hyunwoo's face was icy cold after dealing with all the Man tribe. Just like that, he strode confidently into the altar with the bodies of the Man tribe scattered below. That's the end of chapter 20. I'll post up to chapter 25 next and make another part. If you enjoy it, give a like and a follow for the channel.